What is going on, guys? Thank you so very much for joining us right here on Tuesday night. It is Tuesday Night Titans, episode number 69 for your October 15th, 2024. I am your host, JD from New York, as always, joined by my very good friend and co-host on Tuesday nights, and a very proud Mets fan for now, the Solid Monster. What's going on, brother?
Did you say 69?
I did.
Okay. Because, that was a good year for the Mets. I just want to point that out. Yeah.
I thought, listen, man, maybe I'm the fucking one in the wrong. I thought you were going to say something else.
What do you think? Fucking degenerate over here that I'm working with.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's episode 69, guys. Thank you for joining us back on our normal night after the last couple of weeks of NXT and AEW, making sure that we were on Wednesday night last week. But thank you guys for joining us on your Tuesday nights, man. We got a lot to get into. WrestleDream happened on Saturday night. It was a very long show, as always, and a very long night for me. This guy, he talked about it on the Sound Off on Sunday, which was probably the smart thing to do because I went almost 4 hours with Jesse, and I'm still recovering from WrestleDream. It's a wrestle nightmare.
What time did you actually get to bed?
5:30.
You're out of your fucking mind. You are out of your mind.
Listen, man, you made the right decision. That's all I'll say.
Well, I had a show the next day. You didn't. So, I had the out.
Yeah, I know. Listen, it was a good night. I enjoyed myself with Jesse on Saturday nights, but I'm still feeling the exhaustion from Saturday night's show. But Jason and I are going to talk about the show tonight and go over where we think AEW is going, because there was not a lot going in, but there was certainly a lot coming out, and there's a lot to be excited about for Wednesday's Dynamite tomorrow night. And before I do anything, I have to shout out my very good friend here in the chat. Oh, my goodness, man. David Thiering. David Thiering. This guy walks into the bar. He drops 100 on top of the bar, orders everybody a drink, man. David Thiering, $100 super chat. The Titans are back together again on Tuesday night after a Raw that suffered from the taped show syndrome, as Solo put it. Let's get this stream started right with a bomb. Quick question: with the Hog event Friday, no SmackDown review Friday for both, correct? Hashtag TNT. David, first of all, thank you, brother. Always great to see you in the chat. Jason and I appreciate you very, very, very much. And yes, taped, is that what you called it? Taped show syndrome?
Maybe I did. I don't remember half the shit that comes out of my mouth. I don't know. I mean, it was what you would expect from a tape show. So it's like tape show syndrome.
It was very much a tape show, man. You could see it, you could hear it, you could feel it.
You heard like the piped in noise. Like, I feel like it's been a while since it's been so noticeable, but it was so noticeable last night, especially in the Cody and Gunther segment. You could just hear that like white noise they piped into the background. It's just I hate that.
Well, do you want to be sitting watching 4 hours of pro wrestling? How do you think those people feel?
No, I don't blame them. I mean, it's not their fault. They
felt like I did. They felt like I did after Saturday's show, WrestleDream.
Yeah, I wouldn't be terribly excited either if I had to sit there for 4 hours like that. But I'm just saying though, like, that's one of the things about when you do those double tapings, and sometimes they're unavoidable. But I just hate that.
Yeah, listen, it wasn't a terrible show, but it wasn't exciting at all. But oh my goodness, man, the excitement tonight. We got another $100 bomb. No message behind this one. Boots.
Oh, it's Boots. It's Boots. My boy Boots. I'm going to claim him as my own here. This is Boots. And let's not leave out Paul, though. Paul David also, man. He dropped a 50 bomb.
Paul David with a 50 bomb. Paul says, hey, guys, watching Game 2 of the ALCS with the Yankees lead 3-0 in the bottom of the third inning. There you go. Looks like the Yankees are going to the World Series.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if I should be excited or not, but yeah, hey, I got a lot of Yankee friends, so.
Yeah, my guy, Dr. Evil Genius, is in the chat. He is also a huge Mets fan, season ticket holder Met fan. Oh. Is my guy, Dr. Evil Genius. Not this year, though, because he thought they were going to go the way of the Marlins this year, but.
The Marlins?
Yeah. He didn't have any faith in the team this year.
Well, look, I can't blame him for that either. But, to the Marlins, I mean, come on.
I mean, whatever.
That's pretty low. I mean, that's pretty bad. But look, there's a lot of Mets fans who I feel like it's almost like being in it's being in a relationship where you are constantly let down, and you get hope, and you suddenly you're like, okay, you see that glimmer of hope, and then just constantly the rug just gets pulled out from under you, and after a while it just beats you down, and you sort of expect that bad things are going to happen, but there's good vibes. It's just good vibes around this team, and I'm just riding the wave.
Wow, it's like you described the Vince McMahon, Bruce Pritchard led Raw.
That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
Maybe my comparisons aren't the best, man. I don't know.
Your analogies suck, man. Let's move on from that.
All right, Commissioner Solomon, why don't you let everybody know what's going down this Friday? We got a big show on Friday night, House of Glory NYC Arena. We got some major talent coming through the doors.
We do. We actually have, in the case of two of those talents, their first ever appearances in House of Glory, one of which is he's a legend who I have not really heard much from or seen much of in many, many years, but he's coming in. We have Masato Tanaka. We were talking about him a little bit before we went live, and I think back to those wars he had with Mike Awesome and ECW. You mentioned those god-awful chair shots, and you're probably talking about their one-night stand match in 2005. This is a man who has taken some abuse, and he just keeps coming back, and now he's coming in, and he's going to challenge Mike Santana for the HOG World title. So Santana's been having a killer year. He's going to have to bring his A-game. And then on the flip side, we've got the reigning TNA World Heavyweight Champion, Nick Nemeth, is coming in for the first time. And he, for the first time ever, one-on-one with El Hijo del Vikingo, who has been out for many months. Only recently did he come back. He had a knee injury. And that's a first-time ever match, and we have it in House of Glory. So that's two huge matches coming up on Friday on Triller TV.
Should be good if you guys want to hear us on the call and join us for House of Glory. Triller TV Plus will be streaming the event, or if you're lucky enough to be in the building, come and say what's up. We'll be there.
Absolutely.
Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. Let's try for a goal of 750 likes in the chat tonight. I would really appreciate it. Super chats are open. Boots, thank you. We got Paul David Thiering. You guys are kicking ass already. Love the energy. More of that, please. If you guys want to get in, any questions, comments, and concerns, we will hang out at the end of the show. As always, make sure you guys go follow us on social media and on YouTube. Everything you need is linked down below in the description of this very video. Shout out to my peoples over on Twitch. Thank you guys very much for joining us over there as well. And as always, I'm going to kick it off with Jason here. Man, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I know we're going to spend a good amount of time on WrestleDream, so why don't we talk about some of the WWE happenings going back to SmackDown on Friday. There was a more than one segment. There was a big update, I guess you would say, in the whole Kevin Owens, Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton story, which I thought that really was the most compelling part of that show on Friday, even more than the Bloodline stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. SmackDown's actually been better than Raw the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, what does that say about Raw?
I don't know.
Good.
Maybe we were wrong in wanting 2 hours, man. How you still feeling about that?
No. Okay, so I've had people say this. I've had people say, are you ready to admit? Are you ready to admit that you were wrong and Raw needs to be 3 hours? No, absolutely not. I am enjoying 2-hour Raws in as far as, it's a tight show. And obviously for us, we get to go live earlier. But even if you take the content creator element out of it, no. And what I said on my review the other night was this show last night was taped last week. Last week was the first week that they went 2 hours. And there's going to be an adjustment period because you're basically booking a 2-hour show with a 3-hour roster, right? They drafted 3 hours worth of talent when they had the last draft. So there's going to be an adjustment period. I think it's just going to take maybe another week or two. And then in a couple of weeks, we'll see what these shows are going to look like. It's only until the end of the year, and then they're going to go back to 3 hours probably anyway. So no, I don't miss 3-hour shows. I just think that it's going to take a couple of weeks, and they will adjust, and the show will hopefully go back to being the way it was, which was typically, more often than not, the best show of the week. And I'd like to see them get back to that. But they've also had a few people missing from the shows. Drew McIntyre, we haven't seen him since Bad Blood. Bronson Reed, right? He had a sit-down interview, but he hasn't really been in the mix either. So they've had a couple of guys, or more than a couple of guys, who haven't been on the shows, who have been a pretty significant part of the show for most of the year.
Yeah,
So,
Rollins is one of them. Punk is not going to be on TV until after Crown Jewel because he's not going over there. Crown Jewel itself is just an eyesore.
Throwaway show.
Yeah, it's a throwaway show.
Yeah, it's a throwaway show. I mean, the last few years, they've done a much better job of making the show feel important. Like it is a significant show as far as furthering storylines. It's not ignoring, kind of the week to week. Let's just get past this and then we'll pretend it didn't happen. And I point to the King and Queen of the Ring at the last Saudi show that they did. And now I feel like we're kind of reverting back to the way it used to be, where it's just a show that you can miss it and you don't really miss much. Now, we don't know the full card yet, but everything is built around these crown jewel titles that we're not going to see again for another year. So it just doesn't feel important. And they had done a good job of making these shows feel important. And I'm worried now that we're sort of sliding back to the way it used to be.
Yeah, I was actually quite liking the Saudi shows, the way that they actually fit into the overall pay-per-view calendar. I'm not a big fan of the shows in general, but I did like the way that they fit them into everything else that they do. And like you just said, they now make them throwaway. And listen, I appreciate the King and Queen of the Ring. You and I have been asking for something like that back for a very long time. I don't mind that. I think that's a great way to get some solid matches on a PLE. But this, going back to the Raw vs. SmackDown deal, I said this on Friday, and I believe that Monday, I feel like they know it's a throwaway show. I feel like Triple H and his team doesn't give a shit about this show. And I do feel like even though we're getting this, we're still going to get some little bits and pieces of build towards Survivor Series. And obviously after Crown Jewel, we're going to get some Survivor Series build getting amped up. But that doesn't mean they're going to not build towards Survivor Series. It's just that the week-to-week television is just going to be lacking until we get through Crown Jewel, which is going to be another 3 weeks or so. That's the problem.
Well, I mean, look at last night. We had Cody and Gunther, and I mean, the segment was okay, but I mean, it really wasn't anything special. But it's just like Survivor Series all over again, where we used to have these weeks of brand warfare build, and so you have the champions from both shows that are in the ring together, and then it's like, okay, but we know like neither of their titles are on the line. And they're fighting for a belt that it has no real value. This is what they're fighting over. They're fighting over something that was just created and manufactured just for the sake of doing the show. And, we have a few more weeks left, whatever it is, 2 more weeks before the show. And it just doesn't feel like, this build, it's almost like we just have to get through it as opposed to genuinely looking forward to what's coming. And that's the issue that I have with it. They did give a tease for a Seth Rollins Bronson Reed match that I would have to assume would take place on that show. I mean, I certainly would give it the PLE treatment. Would you?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. But again, beyond that, it's hard to care. I grew to just dislike the build to those Survivor Series shows because it was just so played out. And now I just feel like, all right, here we're back to this again. We have the mixing of the rosters and, building to these promotional matches, but it just doesn't feel like a special show. You look ahead, Survivor Series, Saturday night's main events coming up to close out the year, and it sounds like they're really going to go all out for that show as well. This one, yeah, I mean, it just feels missable right now.
Yeah, it kind of sucks the way that you put it. It's like we just got to get through it. That's a terrible way to feel about something that you enjoy watching. We just got to get through it. I mean, that's bad. Who the fuck wants to watch something like that? It's like an illness.
It's like a disease.
I know.
All right, I'm gonna be sick. It's gonna be about a week. Let's just get through it. We'll get past it, and then we'll get out on the other side, and we'll be okay. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to look at the show that way. You want to actually, you want to be having fun with it. You want to be looking forward. Oh, what's coming up next week? What's going to happen at the pay-per-view? And there's still a couple of weeks left, but right now I just don't feel that way about that show.
Man, now me and Jason know what you colliders feel like, man, on Saturday night. Oh my goodness.
Oh boy, don't get the colliders all riled up. What are you doing?
I got. Every time I see a shot, man, I gotta take it.
It's like the TNA soldiers back in the day that I did war with.
Yeah, I know. Whatever. Kevin Owens though on Friday night. That was easily the best thing, the best takeaway from Friday Night SmackDown. There was a tag team match with Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend. They were making... They were, I know.
Started on this.
They were making their main roster debuts, and Kevin Owens, he comes in from the crowd and he infiltrates the ring as if he's an outsider. He's in a hoodie and he is banned from the building. They don't want him to have a live microphone. They don't want him in the building. They don't want him on the show. So I like that aspect about it. So he got on the microphone and was about to explain to everybody what happened, and he claimed that Cody is the bad guy in all this. He's not the bad guy. And then we get, Nick Aldis down there, security's down there, Randy Orton's out there, Cody Rhodes is out there. We get a huge chaotic scene on Friday night. Randy Orton physically gets into the ring to try and calm Kevin Owens down. And then we get the back elbow from Kevin Owens, who he thought was a security guard, but Randy Orton was behind him and he took a back elbow. Randy Orton then punched Kevin Owens down, and KO didn't know what was going on because he genuinely thought that he was trying to get security guards off him, not Randy Orton. I'll stop there, Jason. What did you make of the back elbow? Because the way that I pictured it or saw it on Friday night, and I talked about it on my Friday night stream, Kevin Owens looked like he knew who he was hitting with that back elbow. Did you get the same feeling from that, or did you genuinely think it was an accident from KO?
No, I mean, my initial thought was it was an accident. That's kind of how I took it. So I didn't quite see it the same way. And then, Orton reacted accordingly. And then, of course, Owens had this shocked look on his face. So that to me also indicated that, hey, what are you doing here? It was a mistake kind of thing. And then we all know what happened later on in the parking lot area. And then did you see the security camera footage that they put out on social media?
I did. I don't know who is providing this footage, or if WWE is letting some of the dirt sheets kind of run with this and put it on their websites and all their socials. But I mean, they got the security cam footage looking down from above of Randy Orton and Kevin Owens and how the whole thing got started. Kevin Owens put the boots to Randy Orton. Nick Aldis was talking to DIY and the Street Profits at the time, and he seen something going on in the distance. He was mentioning a new tag team coming in, which we all know now is the Motor City Machine Guns debuting on Friday. Can't wait for that. But he saw Randy Orton being beaten down, and then the security guards take Kevin Owens away and then get rid of him. And they call for medics and some personnel to come over and treat Randy Orton. But that's the way that situation ended on Friday night. Now, the way that I saw it, and I know a lot of people were like, well, JD, Kevin Owens is a heel. I'm like, sure, he attacked Cody, who is the biggest babyface in the entire company. And then we got Randy Orton, who is one of the biggest babyfaces on Friday Night SmackDown. So sure, if you look at it from that perspective, yes, he's a heel. But Jason, the way that he's coming off, is he really acting heelish? Because if you think back, obviously he's got a right to be upset with Cody Rhodes because Cody Rhodes willingly teamed with Roman Reigns. And after all this time, 4 years goes by, Randy Orton was put out by the Bloodline. The Bloodline had made Kevin Owens' life a living hell for the last 4 years. And then he sees the guy that he's actively backing up and befriending to take care of the current Bloodline situation in Cody. And he's teaming with the guy that did all this bad for 4 years. So Kevin Owens is like, all right, enough is enough here, man. Is he really the bad guy in all this? Do you feel from an outsider perspective, not a wrestling fan, from an outsider perspective, do you feel for Kevin Owens in this situation? Is he really the heel?
I think both can be true. I mean, you could feel for the guy, but still think, look, there's better ways to deal with this than just beating the crap out of the guy. I mean, we still don't know exactly, what the urgency was for him to show up at Bad Blood in the parking lot and put the boots to him. Like, why did it have to happen then? What was said or done that made him do that? We still don't know because he hasn't explained himself yet. But you could also have sympathy for him and say, you know what, I can understand him being upset. I can see where he's coming from. But at the same time, does that justify him beating the shit out of Cody Rhodes in the way that he did? No. And that was a very heelish thing for him to do. I think both of those things can be true. Maybe he's not maybe a heel so much right now as he is straddling that line between heel and face.
Mr. Team bringing in the chat says Cody is a politician. 5- says Cody's not a good friend. Yes, Cody is not a good friend. I mean, he acts like a good friend, but he's certainly not coming off as a good friend. Is Cody... I mean, people think Cody's turning heel. Cody's not turning heel, at least not yet anyway. That's a very long time coming. Is this something that you maybe thought that Randy Orton is facilitating this entire thing? It's one big ploy against Cody Rhodes. Randy Orton and Kevin Owens are in cahoots? Or is this something where you feel, like I do, I think KO is obviously going to take matters into his own hands, and Randy Orton is the one after all of this that's genuinely going to go 100% full-fledged heel, and Kevin Owens is not going to go heel. How do you see this playing out now moving forward?
I don't see this as any kind of ploy by Randy Orton, if that's the direction some people think it's going in. I don't think it's that. But I do think in the end, he'll be the one. If only one of them goes full-fledged heel, it's going to be Randy Orton. So whether or not that happens with KO, does he still end up as a babyface in a couple of months? Yeah, it's possible. But Randy, for sure, I think, is going to end up going full-blown heel in all this. And I don't think it's a ploy. I do think we're going to get either a singles match between Orton and Owens. What my thought coming out of SmackDown was they're setting up maybe for a triple threat at Survivor Series for the title. And we get Owens, Orton, and Cody possibly all in the ring together. And I'm a little unsure whether or not that's the best idea to do, because then you're getting Cody and Orton, for example, in the ring against each other before you do a singles match. Do you really want it? It's kind of like it feeds into this conversation about Rock, Roman, and Cody doing a triple threat at WrestleMania, and does that take away from an eventual Rock and Roman match? I think it does to some degree. But that's what it felt like to me when that show was over. We're either going to get Owens again one-on-one with Cody, or they might work Orton in there. Maybe he's not a wrestler in the match. Maybe he's a referee, right? Look at what Seth did at SummerSlam. He was a referee, but he has to be involved in some way. Like what? There's no other obvious match or program or angle for Randy at Survivor Series to be involved in. If not that, doesn't look like he's going to be part of a War Games match. So what else would he do?
I don't know. We got a lot of weeks of television to fill up. I don't know what Cody's direction is moving into Survivor Series or going into Saturday night's main event, even into the new year. I mean, if he's going to be involved with Roman and Rock, we're not going to do Randy and Cody right now. I would say that happens after WrestleMania. What does Randy Orton do in the meantime? Does he feud with Kevin Owens all the way from now till WrestleMania? I mean, that's a little ridiculous, no?
That seems unlikely to me. But that's also why the Rock situation, I hope for their sake they have it pretty much set as far as what they're going to do, because it really does. It's kind of like holding them hostage in a way. If Rock really hasn't given them a firm answer yet on what he is or isn't willing to do for WrestleMania. If Rock is out, and again, I don't believe he's not going to be at WrestleMania, but let's just say Rock was out of the equation, that clears the way for them to do something with Randy and Cody.
Yeah.
And maybe even take the title off of Cody before WrestleMania and then have him chase to get it back. If Rock is going to be around and Rock is going to wrestle, that changes everything. And everybody else, it's kind of like a state of arrested development almost, where it's like, all right, well, we can't really take the title off Cody, and we can't really get Cody involved in a major angle right now with someone like Randy. We want to save that. And so now somebody like Randy is stuck because there's no other obvious opponent for him. If it's him and KO, you could probably wrap that up by the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
WrestleMania, I think, would be pushing it. So, yeah, I don't know what else you would do with him, if not have him working against Cody.
Yeah, listen, I don't know.
Cena?
Maybe. I mean, he's definitely an X factor, being that he'll be on full-time television in 2 months. So I think that's a good observation there. I would like to see that personally, but I think you and I can both agree that this is exactly what SmackDown is needed for many, many, many weeks. This sense of chaos, not knowing when it's going to come, and this sense of unpredictability. This is exactly what made Monday Night Raw so good in the last few months. This sense of you don't know what's going to happen, and we get some nice story moving forward. This is exactly what the brand and Cody Rhodes needed. So I'm actually quite liking the last couple of weeks of television, because like Jason and I are trying to, kind of decode what is going to happen here. We can't. I actually like that. Good. Keep it that way. But the other big thing that happened on SmackDown was Roman and Jimmy. Jimmy Uso is back. He showed up at the pay-per-view, and we have now Roman acknowledging Jimmy Uso. He made the play. It was his call, says Jimmy. Roman didn't know. But after the entire segment, Jason, we got Jimmy saying that they need help. And obviously, everybody in the crowd knew who Jimmy was mentioning before he even said anything. Crowd was yeeting. Roman looked around and looked at Jimmy and said, "No yeet." And then Jimmy walked away in disgust because he really wants the family to be back on the same page. Fast forward to Monday Night Raw, which I did not expect them to have a segment in the show last night. Jimmy confronted Jay, and Jay said, "Get out of my face. I don't want to see you." And that was basically the way that we left it on Monday night, as Jey Uso is defending the IC title against Braun Breaker next week on Monday Night Raw in the main event. What did you make of that? How do you see this playing out? And like I brought up as a question last night on my stream, do we see, because Braun Breaker's been mentioning Jay's family, that he doesn't need his family. Jay now, after 14 years, is looking to break out of his family after sucking his family off for 14 years. Nice choice of words there by Braun.
God.
But
we had fun with that last night.
I know everybody
Oh, my
seemingly
God.
did. But do you see Jay's family getting involved next week on Monday? Because I think everybody is aware that they're making this match next week, and it looks like the title's going back to Braun Breaker. How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, I really liked what they did, because what I've been talking about is how you can't just have Jey Uso willingly go back and help his brother and help his cousin and kind of join the cause, right, against the new bloodline. You need to, and this is where it becomes great television, when you play into that tension and you tease it out and he says no. And now you have to wait and see, okay, how are they going to convince him, right? How are they going to get him back in the fold? And I think the key to it, and we saw that last night, 2 different segments where Jay just ignored him and said, basically, fuck off in so many words, leave me alone. And it has me thinking that Sami Zayn may be the one that Jimmy goes to. Because Jimmy and Sammy always got along. Sammy is close with Jay. And maybe Sammy becomes the conduit to talking to Jay and trying to convince him to, you know what? Maybe it's time. Maybe we need to do this. And the 2 of them, right? Because you're going to need 4 guys at least for a War Games match. Maybe Sammy is going to be kind of the connection there. That's what I'm thinking. But I like it. I'm glad that they did that last night. I think they taped those segments on Friday night at the building where they did SmackDown, and then they just spliced them into the show. I heard from a listener who said that he works for the venue in St. Louis where they taped the 2 shows last week, and that backstage area did not look like the backstage area in St. Louis. So I imagine they recorded it on Friday, but I'm glad they did that. And Jay should be pissed, and Jay should not want to have anything to do with him. And now we know the Intercontinental title is being defended on Monday. We're going to get the rematch between Jay and Braun Breaker. And what I see here is, I don't see the benefit in beating Braun Breaker for a second time.
No.
Clean, right? I mean, what the hell purpose would that serve if he just loses clean again to Jey Uso? So maybe they do some sort of a disqualification or some kind of a non-finish, and then you have a situation where Braun is about to destroy this guy. And then we get Jimmy coming out to make the save, which Jay he didn't ask for his help, but that's where, the family comes to his aid, the family that Braun was referring to. And we get another week where Jay basically pushes him away and says, leave me alone. I don't need you. I don't want you. And then after that is where Jimmy maybe can go to Sammy and we can get a little summit going. But that's where the compelling aspect of this comes in, when we start to get those segments. And we get them in the ring together, and we get the back and forth, and we, get to see everything play out. How are they going to get these guys back together? Because we know they will. How do you get there, right? It's you know where the destination is, but you still have to get there. You still have the journey, and the journey is what makes it fun. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad they did that last night. I wasn't expecting it on last night's show.
Yeah, me neither. How are you feeling? Because I know you were referenced by saying at least a couple times on TNT here that you feel like it might not be enough time, because we both questioned that it may be a little bit too late to get the OG Bloodline back into a War Games build and start building Bloodline versus Bloodline. Do you feel like it's enough time, or do you still feel the same way that they should have did this a little bit earlier?
They probably should have started on this a little bit earlier. I would have started on it a little bit earlier. There's plenty of time for them to kind of get a team together. Is there enough time for them to play these segments out without it feeling completely rushed? Ask me in a month. Right? It really depends on what they do. But this is something that they should take their time with. I maybe would have started a little bit earlier, but I still think they get to the same place. Let's wait and see, how these segments play out. But in the end, I think it's pretty apparent we're going to get Roman and Jimmy and probably Sammy and Jay against Solo's crew, and that's going to be the War Games match for Survivor Series. And then coming out of Survivor Series, what happens then? If you get them together in a War Games match, Is Jay still on their side? Is Jay still going to make appearances on SmackDown because he's still a Raw guy? So it might be acceptable right now to have crossover heading into Crown Jewel and maybe even heading into Survivor Series. But what happens after Survivor Series, right? Does Jay just kind of go back to doing what he was doing, or is he back in the fold?
Well, that was my next question. Does Jay need to drop the Intercontinental Championship to be involved here, or do you see it not being a big deal that he would still be the champion going into Survivor Series?
I don't think it's a big deal. If it were me, though, he would drop it.
Yeah.
I would put it back on Braun. But if he holds on to it, it doesn't really matter either way. I think it's fine however they want to do it. I think that I always envision Jay's run being relatively short anyway. I just assumed that the belt is going to end up back on Braun Breaker, which is why I was surprised a few weeks ago. And it looked like they were just going in a totally different direction and maybe even building to Braun and Gunther for WrestleMania. And then they swerved us. And so we're right back to this. But that's why I said, like, if he goes in there next Monday and just gets pinned, like, what? Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. You almost have to do a title change. And if not, that's where you get to the DQ finish. But if Braun doesn't win the belt and he's staying heel, what's next for him? Because I would see him holding on to that title and defending it going into WrestleMania if he's going to stay heel.
Well, I think we discussed. I think the best plan here for Braun Breaker is to win the title, hold it till WrestleMania, drop it to Sheamus at WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't win the title back, I don't know what The Rock does. Listen, The Rock is going to do what The Rock wants to do. I don't know how he gets in the main event of WrestleMania. He doesn't need to do anything. He just put himself in there. He doesn't need to win the Chamber. Doesn't need to win the Rumble. He can do whatever he wants. But if that's the case, and he does do that, I would see Braun Breaker winning the Royal Rumble and challenging Gunther at WrestleMania.
I mean, the way things stand right now, though, if he's staying heel, I can't see that.
No,
I don't see that. Unless there is, if he's going to be the same Braun Breaker that we saw on TV last night, where, he's going off on Jay and his family, and he's firmly back in the heel camp here. I know some people still cheer him and they think he's cool and all that, but him winning the Royal Rumble as a heel, I don't see it. I don't see it. Had he gone more lone wolf, tweener type, the way that it looked a few weeks ago, I would have said, yeah, I could definitely see it. But right now, I don't see it. I don't see it. Now, some people, I want to acknowledge everybody who's yelling at us. I know.
Who's yelling at us?
Well, no, Kevin Owens just posted a video on his Twitter.
Okay.
It's 1 minute and 44 seconds. He's sitting in a hotel room, it looks like, and he justifies his actions. So...
Okay, I guess we'll watch that later. I mean, I don't
know if there's even a way for you to type that audio in, but
let's see. Hold on. This is this is the same thing that happened during Bad Blood. JD, you got attacked in the parking lot. Like, yeah, okay. Now we're live here, and then Kevin Owens is fucking filming himself in a hotel room. Here we go. Let's see.
Ever since Bad Blood, there's been a lot of questions about why I did what I did to Cody. There's been a lot of judgments too. A lot of people judging me for what I did. And as much
I can't hear anything, just so you know.
You can't hear anything.
I can't hear anything.
We'll play it later. Sorry, guys. I know I'm hearing it. I'm sure you guys are hearing it. Jason can't hear it, so we'll play it later. But thank you for the update. We will splice that into our individual post shows when we get the time. But yes, Braun Breaker. I don't know. I don't know where he would go. But the other big thing that happened on Monday night was 2 references to Brock Lesnar. And I guess this is a good segue because he was in the news today. Brock Lesnar referenced on Raw, which then fueled speculation about a possible return for him to Monday night. Now, last night on Raw, there were 2 references. Up until last night, the company's not mentioned his name on television for many months due to Lesnar being referenced in the Janelle Grant lawsuit that was filed earlier this year. Seth Rollins was advised by Adam Pearce last night not to take the match against Bronson Reed. Rollins reminded Pearce that he slayed beasts, which was a Brock Lesnar reference. And then Cody Rhodes, during the in-ring segment with Gunther, he responded by saying that, when Gunther called him a secondary champion, let us not forget I defeated the most dominating champion in company history. And then, obviously, he said that he slayed a beast as well during his segment with Gunther. And that got people talking, Jason, on social media. Did you make anything of this about the Beast references twice on Raw last night, leading to a potential, or WWE at least dropping breadcrumbs for a potential Lesnar return going into 2025. What did you make of it? Because I didn't really think much of it at all.
No, I mean, I picked up on it, but I didn't even mention it because it didn't strike me as, oh, this is a sign that he's coming back. I really don't think we're going to see him. I don't want to say never, but I don't think there's any indication that I have seen of him coming back imminently. Things are still very much in motion on that front. Again, he was not actually named in any of that stuff, but he's referenced. And it's a very messy situation. And I would think that WWE would want to just completely steer clear of that and put some more distance between that and possibly bringing Brock back. And it just feels like this thing is still there. You know, it's not going away. It's still there. And who knows what's going to happen in these next few months. Remember, it was put on pause, her lawsuit, but only for 6 months. And I think in the next few months, we're coming up on the end of that. So who the hell knows what's going to happen? I don't think we're going to see Brock back anytime soon. So the references on the show, I noticed it because, you know, 2 different ones. How can you not notice it? But I didn't read anything into it. I don't think it's an indication he's coming back at the Royal Rumble or anything like that. But even if he was going to come back, I don't think they have anything locked in. I don't think there's any creative plan for him or anything like that. I think it's just people sort of running with it.
I mean, listen, I don't think Lesnar's going to be back on television either, especially when we physically saw his being on the Vince documentary in episode 6. I don't think, and he was named legitimately in the documentary. So I don't know if that is going to be a smart move for WWE to put him back on television, being that he was name dropped there. Everybody else made assumptions before that in the court filings. So he was legitimately named there in the docuseries. But there's only 2 matches that I'd want to see out of Lesnar anyway, remaining in WWE. That would be one against Gunther, and the second one would be against Braun Breaker. So, or Bronson Reed, 3. So I don't really know what else Lesnar could possibly do in WWE, but help others move ahead and get further along. I mean, how would you even use him? I mean, that's the way that he's going to be used. He's going to be helped. Well, he's going to be helping other people along, no?
Well, yeah, probably, but I mean, who knows? I mean, you got John Cena's his last year in wrestling, and
I'd like to see that.
Lesnar is one of his. I don't think Cena would like to see that. It didn't go too well for him the last time they were.
He needs revenge from Suplex City, man. He's got to burn that shit to the ground.
Yeah. I mean, I guess so. The last time they were in the ring together probably was that triple threat, right, at the Royal Rumble in 2015.
Yeah, which was phenomenal.
It was fantastic, but it didn't go well for Cena, and then it really didn't go well for him at SummerSlam the year before that. So, but Lesnar is one of his top rivals. If they wanted to do one more thing with him and Cena, that's not going to be enough to bring him back, though. It's not like, hey, we have no plans to bring back Brock Lesnar, but hey, it's John Cena's final year, so we really should bring him back, even though we have this whole controversy that's festering over here. No, I don't. I think it would take a lot more than that to bring him back. So yeah, I just think it's people reading into something that isn't there.
Yeah. Again, guys, I wouldn't make too much of it. I know people love to engagement farm and, really just kind of get out there and make a big stink about nothing on social media just for the likes and the clicks and all that stuff. But that's all that is. I wouldn't take it too serious right now, especially with the lawsuit still pending. So we'll leave it at that. And Lesnar, it's always going to be a what if. So we'll keep an eye on that if anything happens closer to WrestleMania. Speaking of WrestleMania, there was a story from The Observer, from Meltzer himself, that stated The Rock is not scheduled for WrestleMania 41 next April. Now, I mean, you could see that and read it and claim immediately without even listening to a fucking word out of Meltzer's mouth, that's bullshit. Because there is absolutely zero way The Rock is not going to be at WrestleMania. So when asked
why would he even show up at Bad Blood? Why would they do that if he wasn't going to be at WrestleMania? Just to say hi? Was he fucking Jericho, the Learning Tree? Hi guys, just showing up for an appearance? Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Meltzer, he was asked about the triple threat match. A source stated to Meltzer, he's not going to be able to do Mania. He already gave the word that he wouldn't be able to do that match. Meltzer reported that there's no specific reason given past being told that different reasons were given to different people. So then The Rock went on Instagram and called bullshit on the report that Dave Meltzer put out in The Observer. WrestleVotes reported the triple threat match before anybody. Per the report, no specific reason was given past, like Meltzer said, told that different reasons were given to different people. Rock responded on Instagram in a post saying, "Don't believe any of that bullshit." There you go. The final boss will be at WrestleMania. I don't know why they're going to have it in Las Vegas and claim that it's the biggest WrestleMania ever and they're going to outdo last year's WrestleMania. How are you going to do that without The Rock?
Again, though, like, just think of the absurdity of it, though. Like, the last time we saw him was on Raw. He was confronting Cody. He had his Brahma Bull belt with him. And he said, our story is just beginning, right? So they clearly were teasing something between the two of them. So the very next time we see him, he comes out in the vest with the belt over his shoulder, interferes in a segment that involves Cody and Roman, and that's how they go off the air for Bad Blood. And you're going to tell me that he's already, so that means that before he even made the appearance at Bad Blood, he would have told WWE, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do WrestleMania. Now, do you honestly believe, let's say that's true, do you honestly believe that Rock instead is going to have a big match with Cody Rhodes or Cody and Roman at the Royal Rumble or at Elimination Chamber? No, if Rock is going to do any major match, I'm not even talking about a surprise cameo in the Rumble itself. I mean like a match. He's working Mania or he's not working at all. That's it.
We went through this story last year. How many people? I was leading the forefront. Yeah, let's do Rock and Roman at the Elimination Chamber. Let's do Roman and Cody at WrestleMania. How did that work out?
Yeah, well, so they didn't do it because he's not interested in doing anything other than WrestleMania. And this is a big show. It's in a big fight town. They're in Las Vegas. This is going to be a big deal. And it just, but here's the thing. Here's the kicker. So you forgot one important point. Meltzer had a follow-up on his radio show. And they talked about it. And I didn't hear the audio, but from what people who did said, he followed up and he said, well, it was something to the effect of, well, you know, if things have changed, I'll look into it. But, you know, he was of the impression that it wasn't going to happen or he might not be able to do it. But like the way he was talking, it's like, dude, in the newsletter, you said that he told them I can't do it. Now it's almost like, wait a minute, this is different than what was said in the newsletter. It's like it sounded like he was backtracking in a way where it's like, well, you know, he might not be able to do it, but that could always change. Yeah, no shit. Things change all the time. But you sounded pretty declarative in that statement. That's why people were jumping all over him. So I don't know where he got that from. I don't know. I don't even know for sure if maybe Rock hasn't fully confirmed it. But do I believe that Rock has gone to WWE and said outright, yeah, I'm busy. I can't do Mania. Like, I'm out. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. And I would be shocked if he was not in some form or fashion part of WrestleMania at least one of those two nights. I just don't buy it.
So listen, Meltzer in 2024 has basically become, he just puts whatever random opinion out there and people run with it as news. Is that what every time I log into social media, it's like Meltzer said this, and then I see fucking 6 engagement accounts on my timeline doing the same thing, retweeting the same thing. Like, what the fuck?
Here's the problem. Like, I respect Dave, and I was always a big Observer guy. And look, every Friday, look at what all these fucking websites do. What would they do if the Observer didn't come out on Friday? What would they report? It's all stories from the newsletter, right? So people can joke and laugh and all that, but still they look to the Observer for a lot of key news. There's a couple of problems. Number one, Dave has had some misses this year.
Big ones.
Even just recently, Thunder Rosa was very upset because he had reported in the newsletter that she was cleared from her concussion, and she went on social media. She didn't mention him by name, but she said, look, I'm not cleared, and if you want information about me or my medical condition, you can come to me directly. Now, just recently, finally, she was cleared. But that was just one recent example. There's been a lot of different examples like this. And I just think back to the beginning of the year, and this is the one, there's the biggest thing that I will never forget is when he made a comment in the Observer about Shibata. Shibata, many years ago, he got seriously injured in a match with Okada. It was the match that led to his retirement, before he came back eventually. But he suffered, I think it was a subdural hematoma. It was a very serious injury, potentially life or death. And in the newsletter, he had brain surgery. And in the newsletter, he said that they took Shibata's brain out of his head. Now, I read this and I said, wait a minute, I have to go back and read this thing. Did I read this right? Like, yes, they took his brain as part of this surgery. They took his brain out of his head. And that to me will always be, I wish I could frame it and put it on my wall. Okay. So that will not go down in his list of greatest moments. But earlier this year, remember coming out of the WrestleMania press conference in Vegas, there was some people thinking, oh, maybe they're building to something here with Rock and Triple H. Because Rock had confronted him in the back. Yeah. You better take care of this or else you're going to have a problem. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And he, in The Observer, he talked about a segment between them. Like a face-to-face segment. And he was surprised because, Triple H has the heart issue and he's got whatever he's got. He's got a pacemaker or what he has. But he was talking about it like they might have a match, but they just did this segment. I'm like, what segment? Like, what's he talking about? He was referring to a segment that aired on SmackDown 10 years ago when they had a face-to-face in the back. It was like one of these SmackDown anniversary shows. And they were teasing a match for WrestleMania in Dallas between them because they were talking about doing that match. And it ended up not happening. But I remember that segment. Either he saw it on social media or somebody sent it to him. He thought it just aired recently. He thought that it was recent. And he reported on it in the newsletter like it was. I'm like, dude, this segment's 10 years old. Like, but how do you not know this? So it's like, it's just one of these situations where he has gotten himself into trouble this year by not seemingly doing the most basic fact checking or following up or confirming. And I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But to the point you just made, there's another element to this. And this has always been a problem. And I actually kind of feel sorry for him when he gets shit on for this. He will go on his radio show, his podcast, and there are times where he will talk about stuff, and it's clearly just him, like his opinion,
rambling,
right? But he's not reporting anything, but he's talking about what he thinks where this may be going, and then people who probably don't listen report it as, oh, Meltzer reported this as fact, like, oh, he said this is going to happen, but it's not. It's just him giving his opinions, and people report it as fact. So there is a lot of that to be fair, there is a lot of that happens as well. But yeah, no, he's had a lot of misses. It's not been the best year for him. And I guess time will tell if this is another example of that. But I don't believe for a second that Rock is not going to be at WrestleMania next year. I just don't buy it.
No, he will absolutely be there. I mean, that's hilarious though. His brain was removed from his head.
Shibata's brain was removed from his head. That's amazing.
Oh
it's like
God,
just the miracles of modern science. It's just an amazing thing.
So what does Triple H have in his chest? It's not what are they called? Defibrillators?
Defibrillator.
Yeah.
It's a defibrillator. Yeah. I said pacemaker. I think it's a defibrillator where it gives you, if your heartbeat is out of whack, it gives like a shock.
The fact that he even thinks that he's able to wrestle with that, I don't know, man. It's great.
But like, crazy. how do you like? It's a 10-year-old segment. Like, if you watch the segment, literally in the background, I think I don't. Oh God, it's been so long. But I think they had like the video game logo for whatever video game was coming out. It was like 2K14 or something. It was like in the background right behind them. And clearly, if you watch the segment, they look a lot younger and different than they do now. How do you mistake something like that? I couldn't believe what I was reading.
I don't know, man.
He does it to himself.
He does
it to himself.
He does.
Look, I mean, Dave is probably the most unintentionally funny guy. One of the most unintentionally funny people I've ever seen. Like, these clips will pop up sometimes, and it's like that dry sense of humor. And I think he's harmless, but like, yeah, sometimes I'm just sitting here scratching my head going, I got nothing. I don't know how to explain it. The Shibata thing, though, will always take the cake.
Sounds like an old guy trying to fit into a young man's game nowadays, man. I don't know. He's trying to stay relevant somehow, but whatever, man. If you're a fan of The Observer, God bless you. Everybody respects Meltzer in some way, shape, or form, but the misses this year, man, it's fucking comical. Jesus Christ. Joe Hendry, speaking of great years, Joe Hendry, he hinted at a Royal Rumble appearance, which also something fans ran with. This is it's nothing more than fan speculation. We don't really know what his contract status is or what's going to happen with Joe Hendry moving on past Bound for Glory. But we all know that he's one of the biggest names in all of pro wrestling right now. His popularity skyrocketed after appearing in a battle royal on NXT TV as a crossover between the two promotions, which is still ongoing. Despite getting the biggest pop during his entrance out of the rest of the competitors in the battle royal, he was the first one to be eliminated, which I scratched my head about then, but, it didn't really stop him from, rising through the ranks of pro wrestling. Since then, he's been used in various roles for NXT, including commentary, working matches, he having a couple live concerts, backstage segment. Hendry most notably lost to Ethan Page in an NXT title main event at No Mercy. Now, Hendry on social media responded to a fan who said that he simply fell off the radar, which is bullshit. I don't know why. Listen, Jason and I get it. I don't know why we engage with some of these geeks on social media. Hendry, this is nothing more than fucking bait, and he took it.
Oh, I don't know. We just had Hendry at our show a few weeks ago, and it was pretty fucking packed in the building.
Yeah,
so,
and Jason and I legitimately, firsthand experience. I told him legitimately on commentary, I got chills when his music came on. The crowd was singing along and waving their arms. Great moment, fucking great moment. So this fan told Hendry that he fell off the radar by noting the tweet would age badly in 4 months, which would set the time frame for the Royal Rumble in the first portion of 2025. His TNA contract is believed to be up next year. Now, Hendry, if you guys don't know, will be challenging Nick Nemeth, who we have on Friday, who's the TNA World Champion. He will be challenging Nick Nemeth on October 26th at Bound for Glory for the World Championship, which I'm assuming he will win, because if he doesn't, I'd really be scratching my head about that decision. But regardless, Jason, a lot of people took to social media to kind of flame Joe Hendry on this, saying that what a way to kind of put down the promotion that you're working for and built your popularity in, to basically say that, this tweet is going to age badly in 4 months by promoting that you're going to be in another promotion's major match during WrestleMania season. How did you take this tweet? And did you think that he put down TNA in the process, like some fans speculated online?
No, I didn't look at it as him putting down TNA. I looked at it as a very dumb thing to do, because it sounded like he was spoiling a potential Royal Rumble cameo, which, you could do something like that, and that could be the end of your cameo. It could disappear like that, and all to what? To respond to a troll on Twitter? You can't be doing that. Besides the fact that something like that spoils something that would be a nice surprise, even though I think that both of us figured he was probably due for a Royal Rumble cameo. I mean, how could you not hit that music and have him come out there? But that's how you get a Royal Rumble cameo taken away from you, by doing stupid shit like that. So I don't think that was a very smart thing for him to do. And nothing good usually comes from engaging with people like this on social media to begin with. So that's what bothered me about it. I didn't look at it as some kind of slight, like, hey, talk to me in 4 months when I'm working for the other place. Because my understanding, I think Fightful has said before that his contract with TNA runs, I think, for a good, I don't know how many months, but it runs for a good chunk of 2025. It's not like Jordan Grace, who I think her deal might be up in January. And I'd be shocked if she wasn't WWE bound. Joe Hendry, I don't think, is going to be a free agent for a while. So he's not going anywhere. If all he's doing is referencing a cameo in, let's say, the Royal Rumble, I don't see that as a slight on TNA. I just think it was a dumb thing for him to be saying in the first place, because it spoils something WWE would probably rather not have him spoil.
Yeah, I didn't really understand the tweet itself. He put a lot of energy into really just blasting that guy, which Hendry is very popular on social media. I think the last time that I saw the tweet, it had almost 20,000 likes. I mean, yes, people are going to be excited about a possible Royal Rumble appearance or a WWE appearance from him in general, but the fact that you're on your way to winning the TNA World Championship and you're promoting an appearance in the Royal Rumble, yet none of these things have happened yet. It's a little ridiculous. So I think he's going to look back at that this week and say, man, I wish I could take that one back. That was a little stupid of me. But we love Joe Hendry, and I'm excited to see him and Nick Nemeth on the 26th. And a Royal Rumble appearance is going to be big. I love that. That reaction in that venue with that many people singing his theme song. Oh, man, it's going to be great.
Well, I don't think he's ever performed in front of that many people before.
No.
Right? I mean, where is the Rumble's in Indianapolis?
Indianapolis,
right? Yeah, Lucas Oil Stadium. So there's going to be a lot of people there, and you're going to see a lot of people swaying back and forth. provided that the cameo actually happens, which, again, barring injury, I just can't imagine it doesn't.
A John Cena, Joe Hendry face-to-face in the Royal Rumble?
Very possible.
There you go.
Yeah, very possible.
Man, we're going to shift gears over to AEW, and the AEW talk will begin right now. Thank you, guys. We got over 2,000. I know it's a busy Tuesday night. You got your Yankees on, and you got your NXT on, and you got your TNT on, and thank you guys for joining us here. We got 530 likes. I'd love to see that at least get to 1,000. Can we get to 1,000 likes, or at least as close to 1,000 as we can? Super chats are still open. Thank you guys very much for the super chat love. And please make sure you guys follow us on the socials and on YouTube. Everything you need is linked down below in the description. WrestleDream, Jason. I thought Saturday was coming into the show. I was very disenfranchised with the company. I've been very vocal about the creative direction of the company. We'll get into some aspects here. We got some news on Bryan. We got Jimmy Jacobs news. We got news on Bobby Lashley and what's happening with Dynamite on Wednesday. But coming into the show, there wasn't really a lot to sink your teeth into. There was a triple threat match with Ricochet and Takeshita and Ospreay for the international championship. We had the world championship, obviously Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson, and Jay White versus Adam Page. There was some great wrestling on Saturday's show, which is not really a surprise by AEW. I mean, they shit out great wrestling matches. It's not their problem. It's the story that they put into it. Coming in, there was none. Coming out, it seems like Dynamite is one of those shows that genuinely has a lot of excitement built around it because of what the potential stories are going into it coming out of WrestleDream. What was your takeaway from WrestleDream on Saturday night? What did you think of the show? Was it a thumbs up show? And how are you feeling about Dynamite on Wednesday?
I thought it was a strong show. I didn't think it was the best AEW pay-per-view of the year, but I thought it was a strong show because it was carried by some of the key matches. So I thought the main event was very good. I thought that the triple threat match for the international title stole the show, which I don't think is that big of a surprise given who was involved. I thought the women's world title match was also very good. And I thought the opening match was just a banger, between Hangman and Jay White. It's not a match I would have done because honestly, you don't want to beat either one of those guys right now. I don't think there was really a good outcome there either way. And they chose to give Jay White the win, which I get because he just came back, but I wouldn't have been beating Hangman after he just got that big win over Swerve in the cage last month.
No, I agree with that. I hated that, but I understood it, and I appreciated the fact that they tried their best to protect Page with the knee breaker on the stage, and then him trying to do the buckshot, which then was countered into the Blade Runner. I enjoyed that. I appreciated that, but I mean, it was a lose-lose situation there. White needed to win. He's just coming back from an injury. First match back from injury. And then Page, like you said, just had one of the most brutal matches that they've ever done. Ended his, for now, his feud with Swerve. He should really be on his way to the World Championship. Yet they got him feuding with Jeff Jarrett and then now Jay White, and then he loses. So it's like, where does Page go?
Yeah. Where does he go? I know, Jay White is going to be wrestling Christian on Dynamite on Wednesday.
Which makes sense.
Which makes sense, and also that I think that's going to be a hell of a match.
Yeah,
so I think that's going to be, and we'll talk about Dynamite after. But the lineup they put together so far for tomorrow night is pretty good. But as far as WrestleDream, I thought on the whole it was strong. And if you're a fan of stories, you had plenty of stories, coming out of the show. Obviously, the biggest one being what they did in the main event. You had Kyle Fletcher turning on Will Ospreay. They were best friends. Now they're not. So you have that. We have MJF back. We have Adam Cole back. And, we could talk about that. And then a few other things as well that happened on the show, including the Swerve segment. And what will come out of that now with Swerve and this new Hurt Syndicate. So there were multiple different stories, at least, playing out on the show that now lead into Dynamite tomorrow night. And that's the thing, Dynamite is going to sink or swim based on the stories here. The Dynamite is not going to sink or swim based on the matches. It's, did you get people interested enough on Saturday to tune in on Wednesday? And how do these stories progress now over the next several weeks heading into Full Gear? That will tell the tale, I think, of how well Dynamite does do or doesn't do in these next few weeks. And that's what I've been waiting for. Like, okay, can they come up with that one or two interesting stories to really pull us in? And that kind of brings us into the main event because they told a very big story at the end of the show. And I know it was very polarizing. Some people liked it. Some people absolutely hated it. I fall on the side of I liked it. not necessarily every aspect of it. It did come off. The crowd was very upset because I think the crowd was also just kind of shocked that it ended the way it did when he put, Danielson out in the sleeper hold. And also it's Danielson in his home state. And if this was going to be it for him, at least for now, obviously they were very upset about that. But that's the emotion they were going for. And that's the thing. That finish of the show, that angle that they did, it was done to evoke emotion. You have all the other baby faces running out, even though, as Jim Ross pointed out on commentary, what took you so long? I like how they waited until Bryan got his neck broken before they ran out there. Gee, thanks, guys. But eventually they came out, and then they get beaten down, and Darby is taped, but it was a heavy angle, and they were trying to evoke emotion. I think they evoked a little too much emotion in Excalibur, who almost single-handedly.
Bryan, so important. He's so important.
Guys, I've been here 5 years. In this fight, get the fuck out of here. What is this shit? That almost single-handedly ruined the entire segment for me. Okay, please,
man.
with the fake crying, spare me. That aside, it was an angle that was designed, I think, to evoke emotion, and also it just struck me as a way to set up Darby Allin maybe as the one to take that title eventually from Jon Moxley. I don't know if you felt the same way.
I did. I felt Orange Cassidy also got a segment from Jerry Lynn in the back saying that he needs to be the man. I believe in him. Take a chance on yourself. Yada, yada, yada. We'll get into that stuff. But yes, I enjoyed the show, but it wasn't one of their best shows. I feel like it was a weak card on paper, which I think over-delivered as far as the story. They need to deliver on the story on Wednesday. I think a lot of people are going to be looking at them. Microscope's going to be big, and I think they need to deliver on Wednesday. One thing, though, we did get Jay White and Christian Cage announced for Dynamite. We got Leo Rush and Shelton Benjamin announced as well for Dynamite. Tony Khan, I don't know. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, or Jason, correct me if I'm wrong. Did MVP or Shelton Benjamin address themselves as the Hurt Syndicate yet on television in the last 3 weeks? No, right?
No.
Tony Khan put in his tweet, the Hurt Syndicate. It's like, thank you for blowing their fucking cover, man. I mean,
there you go. I guess it's confirmed.
I think that MVP should be the one to make that announcement, but Tony Khan just blasted it out to the public.
I didn't even know he did that, but okay. I guess that makes it official.
Unless he re-edited the tweet, I don't know, but I did see Hurt Syndicate in his tweet.
Well, you did see that there was a segment to explain at least how the match came about with Shelton and Leo Rush.
Yeah, I saw. So
right.
I mean, that's fine. But let's start at the top here quickly. Pre-show, Atlantis Jr. lost the championship to Brian Cage. Ring of Honor TV championship. Good for Brian Cage, I guess. Harley Cameron versus Anna Jay. Anna Jay continues to slowly get better. Everybody was talking about the botch referee spot with Harley Cameron's shoulder up, and the referee had to put her shoulder back down. That's what everybody was talking about coming out of that one. But we got the win there from Anna Jay. MXM Collection came out with Rico. I did not know.
I like seeing Rico. You didn't know who Rico was?
I didn't. I wasn't familiar with Rico. No. And then people filled me in on Chuck and Billy, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, Rico was great back in the day, and yeah, probably more well known for that whole angle.
Yeah.
Which is why they wanted him and Billy in the ring to do something. So, it was a little strange. He went to deliver a spin kick, and then Billy catches him, and before he hits the famouser, he tells him to suck his dick, and then he gives him a famouser. And as I said in my review very casually, I said he did not in fact suck his dick, but he did drop him with a famouser. So yeah, so that was good to see Rico, though. He looks a little bit older in the face, but for the most part, he doesn't look radically different than he did 20 years ago. No,
I saw him try to do the Joe Hendry pose in the pre segment before the match, but yeah, that was.
Rico was one of those guys who came up in the OVW system. Like, he was there at the time that like Brock was coming up, and there was a guy, Ron Waterman. He was another one, and Rico, I think, was part of that whole crew. But he just, he ended up being more of a manager. He wrestled, but he was more of a manager as far as the success that he found. But I mean, by and large, from the people who knew him and everything, they have nothing but good things to say about him. I don't know if he's back on a regular basis or if it was just a one-off, but for a one-off, it was nice to see Rico.
Yeah, they wrestled the Acclaimed, and we got the Acclaim winning there over the Maximum Male Models. Tony Khan came out, Ichi ni Sanda, which didn't go too well.
Oh, my God. This was a disaster. Absolute disaster. Now, the sentiment was good. It was there, and I know he meant well. And, I like the fact that Tony pays homage to some of these legends, and he's like a wrestling savant, and look, I appreciate that. But this was embarrassing because nobody in the crowd knew what he was referring to when he initially mentioned the Inoki chant. And then eventually they put it up on the screen, and so they say it, and then he goes, let's do it one more time. And he's standing there, and he's looking up, and he's waiting for them to put the chant back up on the screen. He's waiting, and Tony Schiavone's like, and there's like nothing going. Meanwhile, the grandkids are standing there probably thinking to themselves, what the fuck is going on here? And then eventually they put it up on the screen. It was so awkward. It was so like, God. But again, the sentiment was nice. And, with that and even the Owen Hart stuff, he does a good job, especially with the Martha Hart stuff. Always very respectful. And it's nice even to see Martha enthusiastic about being involved in wrestling again. Because for so long, the rap on her is, oh, she's a witch. She's stopping Owen from being on her because she hates pro wrestling. No, she hates Vince McMahon and his fucking family because she blames them for killing her husband, which is completely understandable. It's not that she hated wrestling. It's that she hated Vince McMahon and his company because that's where her husband died in a completely unnecessary stunt that never should have been done to begin with because they were using people who didn't know what they were doing. So when he pays homage to wrestling history and people like that, it's a nice thing. I just thought the segment came off very awkward.
JW Universe. No, this was actually on the pre-show to WrestleDream.
This was on the 0 hour.
Yes. Tony Khan needs to take it down a couple of octaves when he grabs a microphone, please, in front of the live audience. Holy shit.
I thought that's why he brought in Christopher Daniels to be a surrogate on TV. But he still goes out there and does it, and it's like he screams. The microphone will project throughout the arena. Maybe he's so used to being on headset backstage. He just has, sometimes he forgets.
I don't know, man. Outrunners, Truth Magnum, Turbo Floyd with the conglomeration. Kyle O'Reilly, Orange Cassidy, they defeated the Premier Athletes and the Dark Order, John Silver and Alex Reynolds. Outrunners got the victory there for the babyfaces. I'd love to see the Outrunners get a tag team title match. Honestly, I was saying that going into Grand Slam. I don't know why they didn't win that tag team gauntlet match. Whether at Full Gear or World's End, I think the Young Bucks need to drop those tag team titles because I just feel like they are wasting the division with them as champions. And I know that they're waiting for Kenny Omega to come back and Kota Ibushi to be cleared so that they could get the Golden Lovers versus the Young Bucks. I think that's what they're waiting for. But by the time we get Kenny Omega back, who the fuck knows when that's going to happen? And I feel like the tag team division could use a nice injection of youthful new teams that people want to see. Outrunners are clearly very over, Jason. I don't know what you think, but they are very much still over, even coming out of that gauntlet match, which I believe was in, what was it, Kentucky or one of them places.
Well, it was their hometown.
Yeah.
It was their hometown, and that's why they got the reaction they got, except when they go to other cities, they get the same reaction.
Yeah.
So it's one of those strike while the iron's hot type things. People really like these guys. They hit on something that seems to be working. And if I were Tony Khan, I would also be considering putting the belts, build a story around it and get them to a point where they challenge for the titles. I would put the titles on them because I agree. I mean, keeping the belts on the Bucks, it's not doing anything for me. I don't think it's doing anything for the tag team division. But they also were just announced as returning to New Japan for the first time in many years. They're going to be part of that WrestleMania dynasty on, I think it's January 5th. I don't see them dropping the belts before then, so it's probably just wishful thinking.
Yeah, I'd like to see a revitalization of the tag team division. We'll talk a little bit more about it because there was a report from Fightful and Sean Ross Sapp saying that there were a lot of people that were pulling for Private Party to win that match on Saturday night to win the tag team championships, and then the Young Bucks see the report, and then they quote tweet the report saying, "That doesn't work for me, brother." So there you go. I know they're playing a gimmick, but they're also not playing a gimmick at the same time. And I do think that the tag team division would be better off with them not as tag team champions. That's just my opinion. WrestleDream started. By the way, before we get that, Okada was challenged by Kyle O'Reilly for the Continental Championship. I mean, you can miss me with that shit, but It is what it is. I'm sure we'll get
Well,
that on random.
Well, you forgot the most important part, what Okada called him.
Hell no, bitch.
Called him a bitch.
Yeah.
That's his signature line.
Yeah. So well, I'm sure we'll be getting that, whether that's a Dynamite match or maybe we get it at Full Gear. We don't know yet.
That's a Dynamite match.
Yes, I know. That Continental title ain't doing anything, man. I'm looking forward to the tournament, though. Hangman, he went one-on-one with Jay White. We already briefly discussed this. We won't waste too much time on this, but I thought this was a tremendous match. Great way to open the show. Guys got incredible chemistry with each other. Hangman, to me, is the best portrayed character right now in all of AEW. I don't know why he was not the one to retire Bryan Danielson, but whatever Bryan wanted, Bryan's going to get. He wanted to drop it to Jon Moxley. There was a statistic, I don't know who it was on social media. I saw that Bryan, I think his last WWE match was against.
I mentioned that on the podcast.
Oh, did you? I seen it on a tweet. I didn't listen to the sound off yet.
I mentioned that. Oh well, fuck you. No, I mentioned that in my review because somebody in the Facebook group mentioned it a few days ago.
Yeah,
and it is interesting that Danielson's last singles match on Raw, he lost to Seth Rollins.
Yep.
His last singles match on SmackDown, he lost to Roman Reigns. And his last match as a full-time performer, probably not ever, but as a full-time performer, he lost to Jon Moxley. And I said the Shield owns his soul. He has put over the Shield, is what Bryan Danielson is now. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's quite the situation there. It's pretty eerie the way that all worked out, but good for him, I guess.
Yeah.
This was a great match. Again, like I said, Paige to me should have been the one to retire Bryan. I think they should have went all in on Paige. I think him holding the championship until Swerve battles back and goes through the Hurt Syndicate and works his way up the rankings again to get to Paige, whether that happens at Double or Nothing or Evolution or All In, which would have been a great way to go about it. That's the way I would have loved to see things play out. But right now, he's in the middle of nothing. He's feuding with Jay White, which Jay White got the victory here. Sure. Adam Page was protected. Sure. But then you're just going to trade victories back and forth. Page is obviously going to need to get a victory back here. We're going to be even 1-1, which I'm assuming we'll get probably at Full Gear. I don't know what the story's going to be, but Jay White wants the World Championship. He wants to get back at everybody that kind of stopped him from doing that in the first place. So he's going after Christian on Dynamite, which there was a little trios situation there with the Bullet Club Gold and the Patriarchy. That was supposed to be the match at All In. So Paige and Jay White feuding, Jason. Do we get them both in the Continent? This is what I was thinking. We get another match out of these two, and then we get them in the Continental Classic, continuing their feud. How do you see this playing out?
Well, I mean, the Continental Classic matches are going to be kicking off. When did they kick off last year? Was it the end of November or the beginning of December? I think it was like the end of November, right after Full Gear.
Yeah, I would say that would give it a month's time. So yeah, probably after Full Gear. Yeah.
So I mean, the timing works out for it to play out that way, and yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I mean, last year's tournament was excellent. We got some excellent wrestling and storytelling, because there were people who were like, oh, I don't like it because it's just matches for the sake of matches. But again, if you watch that tournament, you can't say there were no stories being told, whether it was with Eddie Kingston or some of the other people involved. But the wrestling was fantastic. Again, it's like their version of the G1, only a little more condensed. So I'm looking forward to it, and if they want to run it back or run back a rubber match between them in the Continental Classic, that's fine. Right now, I don't see either one of them winning the Continental Classic.
No.
Now, I don't know who's going to be in the tournament yet either. I thought, silly me, it seemed like we were heading towards Okada and Takeshita, and then they went in a totally different direction with it. So now Takeshita has a different title. Doesn't mean we still can't get it in the Continental Classic, but it seems less likely now that he has another championship. So I don't know who else is going to be in the tournament. I don't really see either one of those guys winning it. But if they want to run it back there, yeah, I could see that.
Just like we see on WWE television, I don't want to make comparisons between the two companies, but I just want to make a point here. We see, the bigger name. We see Cody every week. We see CM Punk almost semi-weekly, except now because he's not going to Crown Jewel. Drew McIntyre, in some way, shape, or form. They don't wrestle every week, but we see them. Their presence is on the show, whether it's a promo in ring or a backstage segment or a sit-down interview, something. These two guys, I hope Tony really understands the talent that he has on his roster. Jay White and Adam Page need to be two focal points on the show regularly moving forward. Page is the best thing about the company, in my honest opinion. And then we got Jay White, who's fucking unbelievable. He's a tremendous professional wrestler. These guys need to be on the show every week. I don't know how you feel about them, Jason, but I honestly feel like Tony needs to settle down and nail down a nice core group of talent that needs to be featured weekly, because I do think one of the things missing from AEW right now is nobody knows, or I should say the shows, nobody knows what you're going to get on the show on a week-to-week basis. It's such a mixed bag of everything. Like, if they knew who they were getting on a weekly basis, like if they knew who they were paying to see, and these guys were on the show every week, yeah, I'm going to tune in to watch Adam Page and Jay White tonight. That would be a lot easier for people to understand what's going to be on the show, but we don't know on a weekly basis. What do you feel about them being two big focal points of Dynamite?
Well, that's what I said in my review. I mean, I said, I would build a company around a certain core group of guys, and they would be part of that core group. I mean, you've got a lot of talent, young talent. You've got MJF and other people. Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay is going to be the face of that company next year. At some point, he'll win the world title. And I look at Hangman in particular, but also Jay White, as two guys that Tony Khan can make a part of his nucleus. And I almost compare it to like when Paul Heyman had the SmackDown 6, back in 2002 into 2003. He had a core group of half a dozen guys, and I think it was Edge, it was Benoit, Eddie, Kurt. Oh my God, I don't remember. I think it was Eddie and Chavo. I know I'm forgetting somebody, but he had that core group of guys, and you knew they were going to be on the show every week, and they were going to go out there and have kick-ass matches, and they built around them. And then you had your bigger stars also, Rock and Hogan. But that's kind of how I look at these two guys. They're part of that nucleus. Darby maybe is another one. And he needs to build around them and protect them as much as possible. And like you said, get them on the show consistently, as long as they can stay healthy. Obviously, Jay just came back from a foot injury. But I agree 100%. I mean, that's how I would look at them if I were Tony Khan. These guys, they're part of this like core half a dozen nucleus, and I want to build around them and make them my top guys. Swerve would be another one.
Yeah, definitely. Those three guys for sure. So Jay White won here. Great way to protect Page here with the knee breaker on the stage. Obviously, the knee stopped him from delivering the lariat, the buckshot lariat, which led right into a deadeye, or not a deadeye, a Blade Runner. And that was it for Adam Page. So he did get the victory to Jay White. Hopefully we get Page coming back and looking for revenge, and they continue the story with some proper storytelling on Dynamite. So great way to open the show on Saturday night. We got the Glamour, Mariah May, and Willow Nightingale for the AEW Women's World Championship. I mean, we could sit here and discuss for another 30 minutes about how we had Willow in this match after losing to Chris Statlander at All Out, and why Statlander's getting a shot at Mercedes in the TNT or the TBS championship. I don't even know what fucking championships they got anymore. But regardless of all that, Willow and Mariah May had a great wrestling match. Now, these two ladies, they are two winners of the Owen Hart Cup on the women's side. So they actually had a Owen Hart Cup match this year as well, which Mariah May ended up winning the tournament. But what'd you think of this match, Jason? I felt like this was probably the best Mariah May title match that she's had so far since winning the title from Toni Storm at All In.
Yeah. I mean, this was, I think, the best match she's had so far. She hasn't had the title for that long, but I mean, I think this is the best defense that she's had. Willow is great. Mariah's a great heel. And you put the two of them together, and they had a very good match, which is really not a surprise at all. I don't know if the original plan would have been Britt Baker if she didn't get sick with strep throat. I don't know, but they just had a really good match, and especially those last few minutes, the crowd was really super into it, which is great to see, because this is a match that only came about less than a week, right, before the pay-per-view. It's not like there was a ton of build to it. And I thought that the people reacted to it in a big way because they enjoyed what they were seeing. So it was a very strong match.
Yeah, right now we have a little problem here with some of the connection on the stream. I don't know what it is exactly. I see you guys in the chat mentioning it. We'll try and get that situated. I don't know. Jason keeps freezing up. Everything seems to be okay on the stream side of things. Everything is going the way it should be, but seems to be lagging a little bit, but we'll try and work through it. So just bear with us, guys. We apologize for that.
Yeah. Keep us posted. I know here, like, last night we had like a Verizon outage,
Yeah.
and a lot of people, I don't know if it was the wind or whatever, a lot of people were complaining about it. But I mean, today seems to be better. So I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, just bear with us, guys. I know it's not like it usually is, but we will work through it. So thank you. Mariah and Willow. Mariah ended up winning here. Mariah took down Willow with an avalanche, her and Karana. She followed with a running knee strike, and then the Storm Zero over Willow. Right now, I don't know where Mariah is going as far as the championship. You would assume that she goes and starts a program now with Mina. We haven't really seen Mina back on television in a huge role. She's showcased herself, and we know that story is ready to be played out. But I don't know as far as Mariah how people are feeling about her ranges. And do you feel like they've dropped the ball coming out of the Toni Storm run? And what do you make of her title run so far? Are you kind of disappointed the way many fans feel?
As far as Mariah is concerned?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's been lackluster so far because, yeah, they're following up on a story that played out for 9 months. It was just such a great story with her and Tony. And they didn't really have anything on that level to follow up with it immediately. So I feel like that is not helping. It's been a little underwhelming. But I think some people seem to be of the impression that they're just waiting for Tony to come back and they're going to run back Toni Storm and Mariah May. I don't know how you feel about that, but to me, I don't really see what's gained by doing that.
Zero.
Yeah, I mean, that story was told. It's over. And so I don't think that Tony is just going to win the belt back. If it were me, I would be starting to build to something early next year between Jamie Hayter and Mariah May. That's the match. And what the hell are they doing with Jamie Hayter right now?
She's a Rampage VIP.
Yeah, I mean, there's no indication of anything that she's going to be doing on the horizon. That to me is the money match between the two of them. So I don't really see what's gained if they just run back Toni Storm and Mariah. I hope they don't do that. I was, and I think you may have mentioned something also about it, but I did on my show. I had secondhand embarrassment by what happened at the post-show scrum.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. I saw the clip. I retweeted the clip. I said, if they gave this woman anything of interest to do on television leading up to this match, I feel like there would have been a couple more questions to be asked. But the fact that you have people that, I don't even call them journalists, reporters, creators, whatever the fuck you want to call them, they didn't have one single question to ask this woman, not one question. That's pretty fucking sad. Then what are you doing there?
The women's world champion is sitting there, and whether it's a kayfabe question or a legitimate question, you could ask her about Mina. You could ask her about, bring up Jamie Hayter. Is she somebody that you would like to defend your title against? Like, what are these fucking people doing? Are they just sitting there taking selfies? Like,
yes.
Why are you there if you're not going to ask? I felt bad for this woman. She's sitting there and she's like, don't be shy. And nobody is saying anything. One person finally from, I think, bodyslam.net asked the question. But it's like, and then she just got up and stormed off. And I'm like, what is the point of even being at the scrum if you can't come up with questions for one of the champions who's sitting there waiting for questions? So I just had secondhand embarrassment watching that. I just don't understand it.
Yeah, I wish that they would get rid of the scrums altogether, both in WWE and AEW. I feel like they're just an embarrassment in general, but not one single question. Mercedes is there for most of 2024. What is her influence on the locker room? How is she, adjusting to AEW? Whatever the case may be. Would you like to wrestle Mercedes? Something along those lines. Anything. I don't understand it, but I felt the same way. Secondhand embarrassment watching that. She walked out, and rightfully so. She was very, very pissy about that, but.
Yeah.
Did you happen to see Chris Statlander's explanation as to why she turned babyface and dropped Stokely Hathaway? What'd you think of that?
I did. I mean, my God. I mean, come on.
No explanation, man. No explanation.
It's not. They tried to come up with one. There is no good explanation for it. It's all bullshit. I mean, they threw it out there just to try to give some kind of reasoning for it, but yeah, I mean, that whole thing was just a fail. The way they just did that quick turn like that, the whole thing is just a fail. I can't justify that. I don't care what segment they want to insert into the show to try to explain it away. It's just ridiculous.
So yeah, they just dropped Chris Statlander and Stokely's now pursuing Private Party. No explanation there, which is something that me and Jesse complained about on Saturday night. People don't really understand why we have a problem with it, but we don't, we have a problem with people not really seeing that it is a problem. It is very much a problem. But I figured that it was, and I called this out. Maybe they have a lack of top contenders, Jason, for both Mariah and Mercedes on the babyface side. But the way that they're blowing through these matches, there's going to be 0 baby faces for these women to wrestle. So I don't see how they're doing anything remotely positive by turning Chris Statlander heel, because I feel, or babyface rather, because I felt like she was a better heel, and I felt like she was actually starting to come into her own, and they didn't even flesh that story out. Not even a tenth of what she could do as a heel. That's what pissed me off.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it's hard to justify. I want to try something here. I'm going to disconnect.
Sure.
And see if this resolves, because it's driving me nuts now.
Yeah.
Because everything looks fine, but I want to see if maybe this will fix the issue. So if I disappear, you'll get me back in.
We're gonna get Jason back in here, and we're gonna hopefully fix this, because he's gonna back out of the StreamYard right now, and then he's gonna join us again. So just give us a little bit. Thank you guys for joining us, by the way, here on TNT 69. This is a rarity to have this type of internet issue. Usually it's very good, but apparently the stream was going beautifully up until about 5 minutes ago, where things just started going haywire. But if you guys want to get those super chats in, please do so. Hit the thumbs up. We need, I would love to see 1,000, man. We got almost 2,200 people in here. I'd love to see 1,000 likes here on the podcast. So thank you guys very much for joining us. Again, please check out Jason on YouTube. Everything you need is linked down below in the description. Make sure you guys also go and follow him on social media at JD from NY206. And then Solid Monster on Twitter as well. And if you guys want to check out any content that I provide over here, we got a ton of stuff. It is all on the homepage. Go and check it out. And we will continue the AEW WrestleDream discussion as soon as Jason gets back. He's just trying to figure something out with the internet. And I'm going to put on some music until he gets back. Check you guys out in the chat. AJ Files, thank you, brother. There he is. Let's see. There he is. He's still glitchy, though.
Is it?
A little bit. I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense. It was fine, and then all of a sudden, like, boom, like.
At least we could see you, but you're not moving. You just kind of, it's glitchy still. I don't know.
I know, no, and even you sound robotic to me. I mean, I can hear you, but you sound robotic to me.
I don't know.
I don't know where the issue is coming from. The internet works. I'm not experiencing any. Well, maybe I am. I'm trying to see here. Some websites are loading. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's strange.
Yeah, it keeps going in and out. It's like you're better than you were, but it just keeps freezing every couple seconds or so.
I don't know if it's a StreamYard thing. I don't see the issue. Let me see here.
Man, don't you love being a content creator and there's technical difficulties while you're actually live?
Oh, it's fantastic. I love it. It's my favorite thing.
Tony McCon. What's up, bro?
Tony McCon. Something here. My next thing is I'll just shut the whole computer down and do a complete reboot to see if that makes a difference.
Oh boy.
That may be the last resort here. Let's see.
Hey, it happens, man. It happens on a rarity, but what are you gonna do, man? Stay with us. We're gonna talk. We're gonna get into this WrestleDream discussion. Lewis, what's up, brother? I believe in the Solid Monster. We'll do it live, pal. Don't worry, we'll get it sorted out. If he's got to reset, he's got to reset. What's the difference? I'll just read some random news stories while he gets back. What am I gonna do? In fact, what do we got? Let's see what we got. Maybe we got some rando news story that we didn't cover that I put off to the side. MJF. We know MJF's playing Gordy, one of Sandler's sons in the film. Happy Gilmore 2. Can't wait to watch that. Fightful saying that he is back full-time and that he will be on television going forward, but he's going to be back filming movies, so he's not going to be back for long. Maybe he does the Adam Cole story and then moves on, but we will definitely talk about that as well. I had a problem with it. I'm glad that they're both back on television, but I had a big problem with them flipping roles for very obvious reasons. But I know Jason gave a very good explanation as to why he thinks it's okay, so we'll get that. But MJF is back on television, as is Adam Cole. Thoughts and prayers. I don't know if you guys heard this story. Thoughts and prayers out to Luchasaurus Killswitch, who is dealing with complications. There may be some permanent damage after hospitalization due to double pneumonia. So we don't know when we're getting Luchasaurus back. Alvarez on Wrestling Observer Live said that there was some news on Luchasaurus. Real name Austin Madelson. It was reported that on September 30th, he had been hospitalized after his fiancée found him collapsed at home. He was rushed to the hospital and diagnosed with double pneumonia. Doctors found out that he had a blood oxygen level below 80%. Alvarez says he's not back in the gym, and he will not be back in the gym for a while, and he's not going to be back wrestling probably for a while. I guess if he's not going to be wrestling, he's not going to be in the gym and vice versa, Brian. Thank you for the unbelievable observation. It's hopefully he'll be back wrestling. Apparently, there were complications. He ends up getting this flu and bad oxygen uptake as a result of whatever else turned into pneumonia, and apparently he's at high risk for a relapse. That's what I was told. The big concern is that after all of this, they've been running test after test, and apparently there may be permanent damage. They found calcification in the heart valve, and his body is not producing iron, so he's got a whole bunch of tests that he apparently has to take. It's bad. It's bad enough that he's out of the hospital, apparently, and he still has to do oxygen. The news about the permanent damage could be a signal that it may end his wrestling career. We wish him nothing but the best for full recovery to the ring. That is awful news there. So Christian Cage is going to be without his kill switch in the patriarchy, and we wish him nothing but the best, and hopefully a return back to the ring for Luchasaurus there. Danny Garcia, we talked about Danny Garcia, and when he re-signed with AEW, Garcia was actually on, I think it was Tuesday's Dynamite, Title Tuesday, and he was on the pay-per-view, which Jason and I will discuss, because it's in literally the next match, Jack Perry versus Katsuyori Shibata. I said it earlier in the week before we got to WrestleDream that Danny Garcia, more than likely, creative plans were going to call for him to go and wrestle for the TNT Championship, and that's exactly what it ended up happening. Meltzer wrote that there was creative plans moving forward for Danny Garcia. Sean Ross Sapp also confirmed that. Garcia signed a new deal with AEW. He confirmed the news during Title Tuesday Dynamite, where he cut a promo. He ended the segment when he called out everyone in AEW who currently holds championship gold. So I don't really, again, there's a report from Jimmy Jacobs saying that he doesn't really find Danny Garcia to be a star or a big enough star. Tony Khan wants to push Danny Garcia. Jimmy Jacobs did not. I don't really see the big deal about Danny Garcia. I don't. I do think that they dropped the ball several times for me to feel a certain way about Danny Garcia. Is he a great wrestler? Sure. Is he a top guy? No. Will he be a top guy? From my point of view, I don't think so. But do I think Danny Garcia has the potential to be a top guy? I can't sit here and really answer that question right now. I don't. He signed with AEW. Sure, he's going to be there for another 3 or 4 years. If the best case scenario is the TNT Championship, is that going to be what takes Danny Garcia to the next level? I don't think so. I don't really see what the big deal is in Danny Garcia. I never understood it. I get so many people on social media say, "Oh, he's great. He's this. He's that. He's a top guy." Blah blah blah. I don't really see it. I know a lot of people also see the same thing that I see. I don't see it. So he's back. He's with AEW. He's staying for at least 3 to 4 years. TNT Championship, is that good enough to get him to the next level? No. The way that I look at it is, thank you for signing. Here's your consolation prize. This is all we think of you. You're not going to be anything more than that. Here you go. Here's the TNT Championship. Great. That's what they think of Danny Garcia. A title that doesn't really hold much value in the company to begin with. Ricky Starks. We talked about Ricky Starks. He confirmed that he's not injured, and it's not up to him. Let me see. Is Jason back? Let me see. I'm doing this show by myself. No, he's not. He's not back yet. He's not back yet. Ricky Starks. He confirmed he's not injured, and it's not up to him as to why he's not on television. Ricky Starks addressed his absence from AEW TV, confirms he's not injured. Says, no, I'm not out of action due to injury. I'm healthy. I'm of sound mind and body. I'm capable to wrestle, just, it's not up to me. I get a lot of messages lately where people are like, hey, just checking in on you. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're mentally okay. It's so sweet. It means a lot to me because these people don't know what's going on. But yeah, I get a lot of these messages, and every time I read them, I tear up because people still care. I love them. I wish I can give an answer. I'm healthy. I'm ready to get back in the ring. I'm in shape, obviously. I've always been in shape. Sometimes it's just not up to me, I guess, as they say. So I love wrestling, and I'm going to figure out a way to do it one way or another. But, I at least think I owe fans some type of explanation to the best of my ability, to the best of my knowledge. So some people don't want to believe that. That's fine. I don't give a fuck, says Ricky Starks. I don't understand why. This is what my point was with Ricky Starks. I don't really understand. And granted, we don't know the whole situation. Ricky could be given creative and he could be saying no, and I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. I think Ricky just wants to be on television. I think Ricky just wants to be appreciated. I really do think he wants to wrestle. But at the end of the day, Tony Khan is keeping him on ice because Tony Khan knows exactly where Ricky Starks is going, and he doesn't want to build Ricky Starks' star power because he knows he's going to end up in WWE. Now, it doesn't matter if Tony Khan ices him or not. It doesn't matter if Tony Khan puts him on TV or not. It doesn't matter. Ricky Starks is going to end up in WWE, and everything that you wasted with Ricky Starks is going to be just that, wasted. As soon as he goes to WWE, his star power is going to be tenfold over what it was in AEW. So if you have him and you're paying him, why don't you use him? I'm sure you can find something for the guy to do. Ricky Starks is one of those guys that has natural charisma. Ricky Starks is one of those guys that makes television better when he's on television. I'd love to see, personally, more of Ricky Starks. So what are we doing? We're paying all these guys. Ricky Starks, Wardlow, Miro, Malachi, right? All these guys that are just wasting away on the AEW payroll. What are we doing? If you don't want them, get rid of them. It's all right to just release them. If you're not going to use them, get rid of them. Does it set a bad precedent? Sure, it does. That's a great point. But if you are paying these guys and not using them, I would rather get rid of them, cut them, and free up that money for someone else or something else. Maybe a couple of creative writers, which, in my opinion, the company desperately needs. Why are you using, certain people on the show, but not Ricky Starks? That's always a question that I get. Well, this guy's on TV and that one's on TV, but Ricky Starks is not on TV. Why isn't Miro on television? I don't know. I'm not Tony Khan. I don't book the fucking shows. He added more time onto Ray Phoenix contract, which I had a problem with personally. I don't like it. Penta, they don't want to be there. He didn't do anything with them creatively either. So what are you going to do what are you going to do with them when you bring them back? What do you have, Ray Phoenix fucking drop to hologram? Have him put over hologram? Give me a fucking break, man. Jason says, try to load my PC back on. Bear with me, having problems. So we are still waiting on Jason, folks. Please bear with us. I'm going to try and get through this show the best that we can. And I'm going to wait for Jason before we get back to discussing WrestleDream. But yes, if you have them and you're paying them, use them. I don't really understand why he's paying someone like Ricky Starks and not using them. So that was in the news this week, and I just don't get it. He's going to end up in WWE when it's all said and done regardless. Bryan Danielson. There was a report on Bryan Danielson after WrestleDream ended, and I'm sure we'll talk about this with Jason as well. But Danielson, his full-time run in AEW is over. A lot of people were speculating this is it. A lot of people hated the ending because they thought this was Bryan's retirement. This was the end for Bryan. Bryan's not going anywhere. Bryan Danielson is not retiring. He's just stepping back from a full-time schedule. I don't know why people ran with the fact that he's retiring. Bryan is not retiring. Bryan lost to Jon Moxley at WrestleDream. His full-time career is over. It was indicated to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful that Danielson specifically wanted to lose to Moxley to end that run. So it was his call. He wanted Jon Moxley. Jason and I also said that we felt like Paige should have been the one to retire, quote-unquote, Danielson from his full-time career. Paige should have been the one to win the World Championship. Bryan wanted Moxley. Bryan wanted Jon Moxley in his last match. So who are we to say, what we want? Bryan wanted it. Tony Khan gave it to him. That's what he got. Fightful Select reports AEW doctors legitimately didn't allow Bryan to be involved in blood and guts. That was something the company was hoping could happen throughout the year. However, Danielson was cleared to compete in regular matches along his road to full-time retirement. Although many people wondered if his interviews were in character regarding his health status, we're told that those were all true. And by the time Moxley's match was unfolding, Danielson even had thought he probably shouldn't have done a couple of those matches leading up to the WrestleDream pay-per-view. I know there was a report with him saying that he was suffering from injuries even going into the Okada match that were so bad that he couldn't feel his arm, or he felt tingling down his arm and tingling down his body. Not really a good thing there, but Bryan did mention that coming out of the Okada match. Danielson has legitimately been without a talent contract for a number of months, and we're told that he does not have any additional contracts. He's effectively a free agent without any additional obligations. He is not going to WWE, so you can end that narrative right away. He's told many in interviews and backstage that he doesn't envision going back to WWE at this time. The hope within AEW is that he'll wrestle periodically for them and resume additional duties whenever he is ready. Danielson told Fightful that he has to get his neck fixed first, which means surgery is very likely. Danielson's match at All In had been planned since earlier this year, complete with Danielson winning the championship. We're told that Chris Hero produced the All In main event between Bryan and Swerve. And Swerve was adamant that he wanted to tap out to lose to Danielson as opposed to passing out. Since virtually the start of Swerve's reign, it was known that Danielson would likely be the one to end it. So Bryan Danielson is done as a full-time in-ring competitor for AEW. A lot of people did not like the ending to the main event match at WrestleDream. I actually did like it. Could I have done without all the hokey, cringy crying from Excalibur and the somber feeling that they tried to create? Sure. But the one thing I really appreciate when it comes to something like that, an angle being done like that on professional wrestling, is I said it with Jesse on Saturday night. They did one thing and one thing only. They made you feel. A lot of people were like, well, where's Shane McMahon? Why wasn't Shane McMahon involved? Why didn't we get Shane McMahon? Well, nobody really promised you Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon is a figment of everybody's imagination. You envision Shane McMahon going to be there going into Saturday's show. You don't get Shane McMahon. All you did was set yourself up for disappointment. Would I have at least hinted a little bit more as to who he potentially, Moxley, Blackpool Combat Club, are working for? Sure. They put the World Championship in a duffel bag like they were robbing a fucking bank in Gotham City, and they ran off with it. That's the way they treat the World Championship. I would have ended the show with them getting into a vehicle with somebody behind a tinted window, driving them away. Who is it? Something. We didn't get any of that. Here's Jason. Let's see if he's a little bit better. What's going on, man?
I could put my fist through the wall right now. That's how angry I am.
Oh boy, what happened?
I don't know what happened. I honestly have no idea, and I just have the scare of my life put into me because I rebooted the entire computer.
Yeah.
And then I got a black screen.
Oh no.
So I rebooted it again, and then the operating system, like main screen open, and there's no system tray on the bottom, and it's just lagging and lagging. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to lose everything now. And then I closed a few background things, and do I look okay now? No,
you sound, but you're not. You don't sound like an Android, but you're glitching and you're freezing every now and then. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm gonna have to look into this, but no, I'm not.
All right, looks like
I apologize.
It looks like you're back now. You haven't glitched in like 10 seconds now. Look at that.
Well, let's hope. Let's just hope.
Let's get through this show and then call it a night. This guy needs a fucking Jack and Coke over here.
3 of them.
Listen, I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We actually have almost 2,300 people in here, man. Hopefully I did a good job of reeling in the absence of the Solid Monster here. We were going over news on Danielson and Ricky Starks and whatever else.
Yeah,
we
had a good rhythm going, man. We had a good rhythm.
I know. We'll get back to it. Mariah May. We talked about Mariah May and Willow Nightingale. She won. She retained the championship. The last thing that we left off with was the terrible post-show media scrum where all of the quote-unquote wannabe journalists and content creators didn't ask this woman a single fucking question, which is ridiculous. But Mina seems to be the direction possibly for Mariah May. Willow, listen, I appreciate Willow. I do. I wasn't the biggest Willow fan, but I feel like that she is still so incredibly over with the fan base, so likable, that she's eventually going to lead this division on her own at some point. She's too good not to. So I love to see her, or would love to see her, on the show a little bit more regularly as a featured talent in that division. But like Jason and I both agree, it's got to be Jamie Hayter. They should be building Jamie Hayter and Mariah May at least at Revolution, latest maybe Double or Nothing, but they got to get that feud going. Jamie Hayter's way too popular, and the way that she ended her reign, it's a shoo-in to get that story going, to her get that title back.
Yeah, no, without question. That's who you start building them now. I think, for early next year, whether it's Grand Slam in Australia, and they have Revolution coming up, probably in March, that's where you got to be building to, not a rematch between her and Toni Storm.
Yeah, Toni Storm, the feud with Toni Storm would do nobody any good, and Toni needs to move on to something else completely. Jack Perry, he defended the TNT Championship against Katsuyori Shibata. This was a match basically just to get these two on the show. I don't really know what the infatuation is with Shibata from Tony Khan, but here he is. Jack Perry, not really doing much with anything in that TNT Championship, but it was all the storyline and the angle that happened after the match was over. So Jack Perry, he gets the pinfall on Shibata. Jack Perry is declared the winner, and after the match was over, Perry cracked Shibata in the skull with the TNT title. Danny Garcia comes out, had a stare down with Jack Perry. I predicted a few days before the pay-per-view that's exactly where they were probably going to go with Danny Garcia, Jason, him signing the contract and giving him a token title run with the TNT title. Whether or not he does good things with that title, that remains to be seen, but that's exactly where they're going with that. So after that, MJF comes on out, and then MJF and Danny Garcia have a face-off. Jack Perry cracks Danny Garcia in the back of the head with the TNT title. MJF continues beating up on Danny Garcia. Then out comes Adam Cole, and Adam Cole chases off MJF. And it looks like we're going right back to Adam Cole and MJF on AEW television. This is a huge get for both of these guys to be back on television. MJF, the ace. Adam Cole, legit main event guy. Love Adam Cole. But there was a lot of controversy from the community about these two guys now flipping roles. Now, I said with Jesse on Saturday night that if you really look at it, it really doesn't make any sense. And, I really stand firm on why I feel the way that I do. MJF lost everything. Adam Cole was in a boot. He had the Undisputed Kingdom. Adam Cole took the championship away from him, did business with Samoa Joe. They fucked this guy over, and they took everything away. His world ended on Long Island at World's End. Come to find out that Adam Cole is now back as a babyface, and now the roles have reversed. MJF is now a heel, and Adam Cole is a babyface. In between all that, we got MJF pretty much putting the kibosh on everything. He stomped on the devil mask. He's moving on from Adam Cole. He's chasing the world championship. He wants to get the world championship back like he should. But now we are where we are, Jason. Please make sense of this. I heard what you said about it, and you do make a very good point about Adam Cole. But if people are in the same boat that I am, is that necessarily wrong?
No, I mean, look, you're not wrong in this way. They are clearly trying to, and we'll see, because Adam Cole's going to have a promo on Dynamite tomorrow, so we'll see how he explains this. I just think it's a case where they're going to try to probably ignore some of what we've already seen, because they have to know that it didn't work. They have to know it would fail. It was a failure from the moment. I mean, they both got hurt. That was the end. There was no salvaging it. You know, Cole was nowhere near ready to come back. MJF was going to be gone for a while, and that was really where the angle died. So now it's like, all right, we're going to pretend some of that never happened. We're going to go in a different direction with this. MJF is back to being a heel. So the only thing to do would have been to bring Cole back as a babyface, because the Undisputed Kingdom is dead. Okay, I don't know if he's still going to have some sort of affiliation with the Kingdom. Wardlow, give me a break. We're probably not going to see Wardlow back. Yeah, exactly. So Wardlow, whatever's going on with him, whether it's an injury or whatever, he's out of the picture. Okay, so you got Roddy and you got the Kingdom. The Undisputed Kingdom, it's dead. They could try to keep it going, it's dead. But the people love Adam Cole. He came out, they cheered for him like he was some big returning babyface. And I just look at it and go, okay, there's no way you can salvage the story as it was, especially since MJF went heel again. So if you want them to work together, which obviously they do, the obvious explanation, Adam Cole lost a year of his career, over a year of his career in the ring, coming out to make the save for MJF because he was his friend. He was on his side. And he came out, and it wasn't MJF's fault per se, but because he was coming out to help MJF, he got hurt. And he sacrificed a good chunk of his career. And now MJF is back to being the asshole guy who heels on everybody and is out for himself. And we saw what happened to Double or Nothing. He dropped Cole on his head with a brain buster, called him a piece of shit, get him out of my ring. It does make sense that Cole, in coming back, would make him a target because of the way things were left between them. Now, would I just have them start feuding again? Maybe not. Maybe I just would have kept them apart and said, forget the whole thing. Pretend it never happened and forget the whole thing. But they chose not to do that. So that's me trying to make sense of it. And it does make sense if that's the story they run with. That Adam Cole would want to get revenge on MJF and basically tell people, look, this is the guy. This is really who he was. You know, try to change him. This is who he is. He's a prick at his core. I lost 13 months, 14 months of my career. You don't get to dismiss me like that. And now he's back for revenge. You can make sense of it. It's not ideal, but you can make sense of the story.
Ahmad Hooper in the chat says, you could easily say Adam Cole felt like they weren't done even though MJF said they were. That's a good point, too.
Yeah, I mean, again, because you can't just have MJF go, well, we're done because I said so. And Adam Cole's like, okay, I guess we're done.
Yeah.
I mean, you can understand him wanting to come back and saying, you know what, not so fast. Okay, I have something to say about this. And we'll see what he has to say tomorrow night. That's going to be his chance to go out there. Story time, baby.
Yep.
Right, with Adam Cole. And he'll stand in the middle of the ring, and let's see what kind of explanation that he gives. But you got to work the injury in there somehow, because he came out to help MJF. He didn't get hurt in a match. He came out to help him. You can shift the blame to him and say, this never would have happened if I didn't try to be your friend. And this is how you're going to treat me now? I don't think so.
Yeah, I trust MJF to tell his side of the story, make sense of it. I trust Adam Cole to go over a lot of the key points that need to be hit tomorrow. Undisputed Kingdom is one of them. What we just heard from Jason is another. They're going to make sense of it. I just, watching it play out in real time on Saturday night, it's like, all right, you took everything from this guy, and why are you going after him? If anything, MJF should have a problem with everything that's going on here with Adam Cole. But I'm looking forward to it. When do we do the match? When do we do the match? Because I know after this segment that aired on Saturday, we're going to get Danny Garcia versus Jack Perry for the TNT title and MJF versus Adam Cole. But the question is when. Now, I said on Saturday, I would not immediately rush into an MJF Adam Cole match for Full Gear. To me, the best situation would be let's slow play it. I would love to see everything play out at World's End. If they could really drag it out that long, which I don't really think they could, because I don't think they have the capability to do that after what we've seen. But I do think that's the perfect battleground for it to take place and end. What I would do at Full Gear, Jason, is I would do MJF and Jack Perry, two pillars, quote unquote, teaming up together against Danny Garcia and Adam Cole in a tag team match, and then build to the two individual singles matches for World's End.
Yeah, I think World's End would be an appropriate place, given that it's 1 year to the Devil reveal.
Yeah.
So just for historical purposes, waiting until the end of the year and building to that match on that show would make a lot of sense. And then doing a tag team match in the interim would also make sense. I don't know if they do it at Full Gear or if Tony would want to just kind of throw it out there on a Dynamite. It's not like he hasn't given away big matches on Dynamite recently. So I could see it being a TV match, and then maybe they go in a different direction for Full Gear. What that would be, though, I'm not sure. So all of that makes sense. Everything that you just laid out does make sense. Doing it at World's End makes sense. But then I almost feel like you're in a situation not unlike the one we talked about with Hangman and Jay White, where Adam Cole just came back, right? He's just back, medically cleared. He's finally back. And you have MJF, who also was gone for a little bit. Now he's back. Who wins? Who goes over?
Yeah, it's tough.
It's tough. I mean, because you could argue that neither man should really take a loss, and it could potentially hurt them. Obviously, MJF won the first match when they wrestled at Wembley last year. Adam Cole, though, he could really use a big win. Him coming back, and they want to get him going. I don't see how it benefits him to go in there, come directly for MJF, and then lose to him, and then just move on. So it's a similar situation where it's not ideal that somebody has to lose, but there's got to be a winner and there's got to be a loser.
Yeah, that's why I think the tag team match is imperative here, because it would give Danny Garcia a win over Jack Perry, have him pin Jack Perry, earn a TNT title shot. You could do, in the interim, get Adam Cole some wins. I mean, he's got to wipe off that ring rust, get him some wins on Dynamite, give MJF a couple of matches, a little mini feud or something, play out that storyline along the way, and then...
Well, wait a minute, hold on. So you're proposing, based on what you just said, so you're proposing that you do an eliminator match first between them?
No.
Wait, you just said that if Daniel Garcia... You just said that if Daniel Garcia beats Jack Perry, he gets a TNT title shot.
No, in the tag team match. Have him pin Jack Perry in the tag team match. If they do the tag team match. So that would be like...
I thought for a second you were proposing a fucking one of these eliminator matches where you got to beat the champion.
A fucking eliminator match. Non-title match. Just a regular one-on-one match. If they want to do that and have him pin it, sure, fine. But a tag team match element, I think Danny Garcia should pin Jack Perry to say, hey, man, I pinned you. I deserve a championship match.
But then would you have him then also beat Jack Perry for the title? Because I think that you put the TNT title on Daniel Garcia. If they're all in on Danny, and I'm sure paid him a lot of money to re-sign him, and clearly they want to, build him up, he should be the one to take the TNT title from Jack Perry. So you see him beating Jack Perry in a tag match.
Are we really protecting Jack Perry now?
Well, I'm just saying, traditionally, that, do you expect them that if they give Garcia the win in the tag match, that they'll give him another win in the title match, realistically?
Yeah, he signed that big contract.
I'm not saying I wouldn't, but do you see Tony Khan doing that?
No, I don't.
Okay, because they're giving Jack Perry a pretty serious push, too, so you're going to beat him twice. Not that I wouldn't do it, I just don't know how realistic that is, that Tony would actually go in there and do that, because I don't know that he's ready to start beating the elite. The Bucks still have the tag belts. Okada still has his belt. They gotta lose him at some point. So I don't know if he's ready to do that. But if it were me, yes, whether you do the tag match or not, I put that TNT title on Daniel Garcia. He's the one that, whether you like him or not, whether you believe in Garcia, whether you see the hype in him or not, they see something in him. And if that's the case, you can't do this start and stop push bullshit that they've done with him before. We've been down this road before. Remember when he was with Jericho? Okay, you can't do that. You're either all in on him or you're not. Now, he lost to MJF. He didn't even win that match. He needs a big win. Put the TNT title on him. He should be the one to beat Jack Perry for that belt.
I agree. I think Tony Khan needs to do something that they don't usually do, and that's try something different. He's been so close to the vest and resting on his laurels too much. I think them trying something new and taking a different road creatively is going to benefit them. So we'll see.
Well, he's resting on an angle that also just hasn't worked. I mean, they've definitely gotten Jack Perry to a place where he feels bigger than he was before.
Sure, yeah.
But this whole elite angle overall, you can't sit there and tell me that they expected it, that this was where the elite angle would be now. They were expecting this to become a much bigger success than it was. And it wasn't. So how long do you want to keep the titles on these guys before they start losing some matches? I mean, you can get heat, but you can only get so much heat before people get bored and they say, okay, I've had enough of this. And people felt that way about the Bloodline too. So I just don't know how much longer he can drag this out for before we start seeing these elite guys go down and give some wins to the AEW crew. But then we also don't know what's going on with the BCC stuff and how that might affect things. So, you know, we'll get into that. But yeah, I mean, at some point, you've got to shake things up a little bit and give people something to cheer for. And I just don't know how many people are interested in continuing to see the Bucks and Jack Perry hold on to these titles. You know, for how many more months would you even do that for? That's another reason why I say take the title off him.
It's crazy that they had not one but two angles that theoretically they want you to forget about. It's crazy.
What does that tell you?
That their creative team is fucking terrible right now. I don't know. I don't know what it tells you. But they need to do something different.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's one of the reasons, not to get ahead of myself here, but that's one of the reasons why I kind of like the ending of the pay-per-view. Because it was different, you know. Yeah. They did a heavy heat angle. And I saw some people say, well, that's such a WWE Vince McMahon thing to do, where the heels win and they get heat, you know. Yeah, but if you hit on something with this and you can get real heat on these guys and people buy into it, and then you can kind of build up some AEW original baby faces like Darby, and you saw Orange Cassidy at the end of the show, and really build them up to beat these guys, the hope would be that you create some real big new stars out of it. That would be the goal.
Yeah, a lot of people, I don't want to jump ahead either because we'll get to it, but a lot of people tend to think that they are pre-programmed to think that every show needs to go off the air with like the conquering hero winning and valiantly fucking standing there. I did it, you know. No,
we got that at All In.
We did, and it was fucking tremendous. The best part of it all is, you know, you guys don't really understand that when the villain or the bad guys end the show the way that they did on Saturday night, it actually creates engaging, more interesting television. I don't want to see the baby faces go off the air every time winning and saying, yes, we did it. That's boring. To me, the villains would always get the upper hand. If you got a good villain, you got a good baby face. That's what's going to create the dynamic for must-see television in AEW. Hopefully this is the storyline to do that. But again, I'm treading very lightly. Because after what we've seen this year, they don't really have my personal trust at all until they really show me, you know, that they deserve it.
The benefit of the doubt is not there, right?
No.
In the way that maybe it used to be. Maybe it would have been a few years ago.
So we got that. I'm looking forward to that on Wednesday. Will Ospreay, Ricochet, and Konosuke Takeshita triple threat match, international championship. I would be very confident to say that this was, A, one of the best matches of the entire year, B, probably the best triple threat match that we'll see all 2024, and C, Jason, I was legitimately, and we talked about Tony doing something different. I was not expecting Konosuke Takeshita to win this championship tonight. I thought either Ospreay was going to retain and then maybe we get a post-match attack from Kyle Fletcher, but they went all in. They took the belt off Ospreay, put it on Takeshita, and turned Fletcher on Ospreay. And we even have story coming out of this right now. This was tremendous stuff.
Yeah, I figured it was either an Ospreay win or a Takeshita win. I didn't have Ricochet winning. And I'm glad, look, it's so overdue to have Takeshita holding singles gold in this company. This is something that should have happened a long time ago. I was very happy to see him holding that championship at the end of this. Again, I don't know if they're still going to revisit the issue with him and Okada for the Continental title, but He's got gold right now. Kyle Fletcher now is a heel. He turns on Will Ospreay. Does Ospreay need the international title? No.
No.
Now is the time where you can start the slow build, frankly, to next summer and crowning him in Texas at All In, because he's going to win the AEW World title at some point next year. I think that would be a good place for it. But this guy has World Championship written all over him. So why not, it might not happen in the next 5 months or 6 months, but why not get the title off of him, put it on somebody else who could really benefit from it? Ospreay's over with or without a title. I mean, this guy's going to be the face of the company come next year. So it was an excellent match. I'm glad that Takeshita got that moment. And like you said, we have this story now that is going to play out between Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher coming out of the show on Saturday.
Where exactly do we go with this story? Because Fletcher and Ospreay seems to be the direction. That would leave Ricochet to do what exactly? Where does he go from here?
Well, one of the things I had suggested a few weeks ago is having Ospreay and Ricochet as allies. And so maybe Ricochet is going to help fight off or try to fight off some of the members of the Callis family. Maybe we get Ricochet and Kyle Fletcher before we get Ospreay and Fletcher. Maybe Ricochet gets a singles match, because he wasn't the one that was pinned. Maybe he gets a singles match with Takeshita for the international title, which he would lose. He technically has not been pinned yet in AEW. So I think Ricochet and Takeshita in a single for the title, as Ospreay goes off to wrestle Fletcher, would seem to be the obvious direction for me. And then, when and if Ricochet loses that match, that's where I'm interested to see what happens with Ricochet. Because one of the critiques from people who, when they heard he was coming in, it's just a matter of time. He's going to be one of these guys that Tony signs like a new toy. And then after a couple of months, he's going to be like every other guy. And, maybe we don't even see him on some weeks on TV. That will be the real test. Does Ricochet become just another guy who falls into the background and is forgotten about? Or does Tony have another idea lined up for him when this is, over and played itself out? Because I do think we get that match with him and Takeshita. But then what comes next? The honest answer is I don't know. That's what I want to see. Does Tony Khan already have something penciled in for Ricochet to do when this program is over?
Yeah, I said, I know you made Will Ospreay and the correlation to him winning the World Championship at All In. I could see that. Jesse and I actually discussed this on Saturday night. I made a bold prediction saying that I don't even think Will Ospreay wins the championship in 2025. Now, that's a very bold prediction because I'm going based off what we've seen. And we saw Orange Cassidy, we saw Darby Allin, and we saw two potential opponents for Jon Moxley, who is now the new AEW World Champion. Again, I don't want to jump ahead, but then you start to factor in, well, what is Paige doing? And what is Jay White going to do? He wants the World Championship. What about Swerve? He wants that championship back. He's already made, comments about him wanting the World Championship back and how it feels weird for him to be out there without the World Championship. There's a lot of people on AEW who want the World Championship. Ospreay certainly one of them, but he hasn't really made mention of the World Championship right because he's doing what he's got to do here with the Don Callis family. Do you see Ospreay waiting after we get through all of these potential championships, matches, and champions next year? Do you think that All In is the definitive place for Ospreay to do it, or would you hold off on that? Because the way that I see it playing out is I genuinely feel that Tony's going to give Darby Allin a token title run. I do think that Tony's going to make Darby the world champion going into 2025.
Well, the only issue I have with that, because I felt the same way coming out of that show, that Darby may be the one to take the title from Moxley. But the problem is, first of all, when do you do it? Because you're not going to take the title off Moxley quickly, especially if you're starting this. It's almost like a takeover type of storyline here. I don't see Moxley dropping the title at least until Grand Slam or Revolution. Let's say that Tony gives Darby a win and he gives him a token title run. That's all it is. Because if Darby is serious about climbing this freaking mountain next year, he's gonna go into training and preparation for it pretty early in the year. And I think the climb is in April. How does that affect things? I mean, are you literally just going to put the belt on Darby for like a week or a month and then just take it away from him? Because he can't do both of those things. He can't be a champion and be there long term, next year, to be there every week and be a defending champion, but also be doing a mountain climb that could possibly kill him. And he's dead serious about doing it. That's the only thing that's stopping me from saying, okay, I think Darby gets his run early next year. I could see that preventing it from happening.
See, the way that I see it playing out, and I could be completely off, but I see Darby winning. Revolution, I think, is the perfect place to do it because it goes back to what they did with Sting. That would be his Revolution next year. So we had Sting's retirement at Revolution this year. Do it at Revolution, have Darby win the World Championship from Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley in the interim there would, obviously, Orange Cassidy is going to step up to the plate. He's going to fall. Darby wins it at Revolution. And then, like you said, if he's going to definitely climb the mountain, Mount Everest, have Adam Page beat him, whether it's a couple of weeks, a month. And the tie-in with Darby and Swerve, there's a tie-in there where you could see Page winning the championship from Darby, and then that gets Swerve back into, hey, stepping into saving Darby. Maybe they build towards Swerve and Hangman Page at All In. That's the way that I envision All In's main event taking place next year. I don't know. Again, I could be off, but I think we wait on Will Ospreay like we just talked about. I don't think Will Ospreay needs a championship. I think Ospreay is such a big deal. And he's operating at such a high level right now that he's got that bulletproof aura about him. And I don't think he needs a championship to really solidify his place in the company. I think he's going to be the ace and number one without the championship.
Yeah, and Mr. Noob makes a good point in the live chat. Let's not forget that Christian has that contract.
Yep.
So I could envision a scenario where Darby wins the belt, and then if not that night, maybe on Dynamite that Wednesday, maybe we get Christian cashing in his opportunity of winning the World Championship from Darby. Because I think that if that's what they're going to do, is put the belt on Darby very briefly and then he may go away for a while, it would be so like Darby to have him win the belt on a Saturday or a Sunday and then lose it on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And you do a title change like that week. Like he doesn't even get a week with it. Because, do you see Darby having like a lengthy run as champion? It would almost feel appropriate in a way, for him to drop it quickly like that. But yeah, Christian is still the wild card here because he's got a guaranteed world championship match. And how appropriate would that be? Because that contract belonged to Darby.
It did.
And so if Christian was to use it on Darby, that's like a double insult. So there is that. I could see that because I don't know if there's a time limit on, maybe it's a year, let's say, the time limit on the contract. And they got plenty of time. He doesn't have to use it anytime in the next few months. You can carry it around and maybe even stop carrying it around at some point. Don't mention it. People forget. And then one day he shows up with it and it's like, oh shit, he's got that contract. And then, because Tony Khan loves Christian Cage. He even tweeted the other day, Christian Cage is the man because he was trending on social media.
You started some viral nonsense just without even thinking about it. You were tweeting about baseball and then all of a sudden fucking Grisham is all over the place, dude. What the fuck?
Yeah. I'm glad though. Hey, look, I don't mind it. That's great because Christian is fantastic, and more people should know about it. But I know Tony Khan thinks the world of him, and he may well give him a token run of his own with the championship. And again, how appropriate would that be if he used it on Darby? And it would get him mega heat because everyone loves Darby. He's an AEW original, and then like 4 days later, that little sniveling shit, shows up and uses the contract on him and then wins the title. It would get him mega heat.
We love Christian. He's so great. By the way, that tweet that you put out with Bob Costas calling Andre and Hulk, man, I was on the couch. I opened the tweet. I couldn't stop laughing for a good 30 seconds, man. I'm like, that's that.
I had to whip that up because I heard the call from the game and I'm like, I got to do it. Like, I just got to do it. So like I had the clip of Hogan Andre without commentary. I forgot what DVD it was that they put out years ago. It's literally like the hard camera view and no commentary, and just so you experience Hogan Andre in like a totally different way. And there was a site that had the clip, and I said, I know exactly what I'm gonna do. And as soon as I took it, I was cracking myself up when I like listened back to it because it's just so absurd. But yeah, no, I mean, look, Christian was trending for 48 hours and good, because I think he's doing some of the best work of his entire career.
I agree. We'll see what happens. They got that money in the bank contract, quote unquote. We'll see what happens and what he does with it. But he did not show face on Saturday night. But you know who did, though? MVP and Shelton Benjamin, they confronted Swerve and Prince Nana. And MVP has been asking for the services, or at least to do business with Mr. Strickland. And Swerve wanted no part of it. They did tease a couple of back and forths between Swerve and Nana on Saturday night, which were all for naught. Swerve is not leaving Nana because he feels like family is more important than everything, and Nana has been there since day one. And without Nana, he wouldn't have accomplished everything that he's accomplished up until this point. So then that started a situation with Shelton Benjamin, Jason, where Shelton said, I think you may have misread the situation here. We weren't asking you. We were telling you there is no you without us. You're either with us or against us. So there was a shoving match. Referees tried to block Swerve from Shelton Benjamin. And we got the match booked between Shelton and Lio Rush on Wednesday's Dynamite, which obviously has people talking because of the correlation that Lio Rush and Bobby Lashley once were paired together in WWE, that we may see Bobby Lashley sooner rather than later. But a lot of people were upset that we didn't get Bobby Lashley on the show, and I had to calm everybody down on Saturday night and say, the reason why we didn't get Bobby Lashley on Saturday night is because, you know, that's a big deal, and with everything else happening with Bryan and the quote-unquote semi-retirement of Bryan Danielson, him going away full-time, MJF coming back, Adam Cole coming back, you didn't want to overshadow those moments, and you didn't want to make Bobby Lashley seem less than. So I think instead of giving everything away and Tony Khan throwing all his cards out on the table like he usually does, let's wait. Whether it's a Dynamite or Full Gear, what's the rush?
What's the Lio Rush? Yeah, I mean, look, you had so much going on that show, and people coming back and everything. You don't need to give everything away in one night. You got to save some stuff for the television show. There's another consideration here also. Now, you could have had Lashley show up and just show up and not do anything, and you just kind of leave it as like a cliffhanger. But there was a lot of thought that maybe he would show up and he would attack Swerve or put him in the Hurt Lock or something. And it's also just very possible that they just did not want to have two different angles on the same show with two hometown guys being laid out, right? We were already getting that in the main event with Danielson, and maybe they just didn't want to do that to Swerve. I wasn't upset by it. I thought we would get Lashley on this show, but when we didn't, I wasn't upset by it. I am totally fine with them saving it for TV this week. I think there's a pretty good chance we get it tomorrow. And if not, if they're going to save it for Full Gear, that's fine. Build to it. Everybody knows he's coming in.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to be, no pun intended, he's going to be the crown jewel of MVP's faction. We know it's going to be Bobby Lashley coming in, and he'll be feuding with Swerve. Maybe it happens tomorrow night, but I didn't have any issue with them not having him on the show. And I actually thought the segment as a promo segment was actually really good. And Swerve being in his hometown, he came across like a big deal. He came across like a star. So he is somebody that you can truly look at now as compared to where he was at the beginning of this year. And you could say that AEW, they made a star. Coming out of everything he did with Hangman and then beating Joe and everything else, he beat Ospreay, right? How many people can say they did that since Ospreay signed? They really, that's why so many people who were like, oh, he's buried, you know, when they beat him at All In, he's buried now, right? I love that word. I love when I see that word. That word, that's the most overused word in all of wrestling vernacular. It's not heel, it's not babyface, it's buried. If somebody loses a match, they're buried. No.
Here's a good way to look at it. Swerve, not buried. Giovanni Vinci, buried. It's not the same thing.
Exactly. Okay, yeah, whatever happened to that guy? Swerve, they created a star in him. That Hangman feud is what put him on the map. So now when he comes out, there's just a different feel as compared to the beginning of the year. And it's really cool to see. I think his promos are also coming along. He had some promos earlier this year where, I don't know, it just seemed maybe he was nervous. I don't know what it was. But he was out there. He was rock solid. And I enjoyed the segment. I really did. I enjoyed the segment. And I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. And seeing Shelton Benjamin back in the ring, too, because the guy, what is he, 48 now? But the guy can still go.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen him in the last few years, and Lio Rush.
Well, we know Lio Rush can go. He's fucking great.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to that match, actually, tomorrow night.
Yeah, Tony Khan did tweet, like I mentioned earlier, we did not get the name of the group on actual television yet since they've joined the company, but Tony Khan tweeted after Leo's announcement that he's back signed with AEW, he was interrupted by the Hurt Syndicate. So we now have confirmation that that is their name in AEW. But we didn't hear that from Shelton or MVP on national television.
He spoiled. Well, I guess look, I assume MVP went to his office and said, "Hey, we are the Hurt Syndicate."
Yeah, I guess so.
Tony got so excited he couldn't help himself. He had to tweet it out.
I think tomorrow would be the best case scenario for Bobby Lashley as well. And if that's the case, do we get Swerve and Lashley at Full Gear? Or Swerve and Shelton first?
I would do Swerve and Shelton first. I would almost you got to go through him to get to Lashley.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. I don't see the need to go to him and Lashley right away. I think him and Lashley could be the World's End match.
I like it. They're going to need some big matches for that World's End show, being that there's legitimately a WWE house show the same night. There you go.
Well, it's a house show.
I know. But WWE, they'll load that house show up with the fucking Undertaker and John Cena.
Yeah, right. John Cena is coming back even earlier than expected. He's going to be in Orlando at a house show on December 28th. I thought for sure they were going to schedule Saturday night's main event that night.
Me too.
I think I even told you that. I was sure they were going to book the show that night. So Tony Khan dodged a bullet.
He did. We did not dodge a bullet, though, because we got Hologram.
Oh, boy.
And LFI's Beast Mortos. Oh, man.
But no Jake Roberts.
No.
There was no Jake Roberts. I mean, he's the new manager for LFI, and he wasn't even there with the Beast. What's going on?
I guess he didn't want to travel to Tacoma. I don't know. Maybe Tacoma's not his type of town.
La Serpiente Mexicana. He was not there on the show.
Is that what he's going by now?
That's the Mexican snake. That's the name I came up with for him. I had no idea.
I like it.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
I'm not going to get into this too much. I mean, this me, the emotional investment I have. The emotional investment I have here is basically nothing, man. It's like me watching the fucking. It's like me watching the Knicks or the Giants or the Jets. I don't give a shit, but everybody else around me does, which apparently Tacoma loved this. I didn't care.
Yeah. So apparently they just got a deal signed with Fox Sports Mexico. And apparently we're going to be seeing a heavy emphasis on these types of lucha matches. And this is part of that effort. Well, that could be part of the effort, but it's still, this was a match that did not need to be on this show. Because you mentioned before, I mean, again, it was a very, as they usually always are, a very long show as it was. So they had, 3 or 4 matches on the pre-show alone. And then you had the main card, which went right up until midnight. I mean, they went right to 12 a.m. And they just throw so much at you that you can look at the card and you can say, okay, this and this, or this and this. This did not need to be on the show. And maybe you could have given some more time to some matches, or you just could have tightened things up a little bit. That's how I felt watching this. My other issue with this, which is not to say that it was bad. I mean, they were doing a lot of lucha spots, and they did get the crowd into it. My issue also with it, though, was the longer it went, they gave them, it was a 2 out of 3 falls match, which was like, okay. And they gave them, I think, like 16 or 18 minutes or something. The longer the match went, it felt like they were repeating spots from the first half of the match. Like there was one spot.
There was the crucifix spot. They did twice.
Yes, the diving crucifix bomb. And I'm like, wait a minute, I think he already did that at the beginning of the match. And I think there was another spot like that. I'm like, that's a sign this match has gone on longer than it needs to. So that was my issue with it. And also just, maybe I'm just sort of desensitized to it, I guess.
Well, he's 15-0 now.
He is 15-0.
You know, Goldberg was 173-0, quote unquote.
He's got a ways to go, though. But I don't hear the crowd going hologram, hologram. See, it'll be more like Goldberg when you hear him piping in the hologram chants. Then you'll know, because that's what they were doing with Goldberg towards the end there. I mean, people were still cheering for him, but you could clearly hear that they were piping in some Goldberg chants. I couldn't bring myself to just care.
Did you mention on your end that he actually did take a pinfall in this match and how they're not going to acknowledge it?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. So he comes into the match and he's 14-0, and I was thinking about this. I said, wait a minute. I said, unless he's going to win 2 straight falls, there's a chance that he's going to get pinned here in this match. And I was curious, how they would handle that. And then he got pinned. And this 14-0 undefeated streak that he is on it was such a big deal to these people in Tacoma that when he got pinned, nobody gave a shit. They didn't react to it like, oh, hologram just got pinned. Like, no one cared. I don't even know if they realized, frankly, this undefeated guy just got pinned. So then he goes on to win the match, and they're like, he's 15-0. And I'm like, why would you book an undefeated star who's 14-0 in a 2 out of 3 falls match where he has to take a pinfall? Why would you do that?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know why Tony Khan does anything, really.
He's technically 15-0, but like, you got the visual of him being pinned. I just don't understand it. That part just threw me for a loop. I don't know why you would do that, but again, the crowd was indifferent. They didn't seem to really either realize it or give a shit. So I just thought it was funny more than anything. Why that stipulation? The guy is undefeated. Let's do a 2 out of 3 falls match where he's going to get pinned. I just don't get it.
Well, Tony wasn't even at the scrum, so we couldn't have asked him about his thoughts on hologram.
He probably wouldn't have given you an answer anyway. Let's be honest.
Listen, I would have.
That's a great question. That's a great question, JD, and I wish I could answer it. But hologram is my favorite, and I can't say anything else about it. But that's a great question, and don't be sure to watch Dynamite at 8 p.m. Eastern on TBS this Wednesday.
Now, I heard rumors. I heard rumors that for Halloween that you are going to be dressed as Sologram. Is that true?
That is incorrect. That will not be happening. I don't know where you're getting this. Did Meltzer have that in the Observer?
I think
is that where you got it from?
I think so. I might have gotten it from somewhere on social media. I don't know.
Gonna have to tweet and tell him, like, you come to me in the future when you want to know these things.
Yes, guys. Hologram is a certified first ballot Hall of Famer. Yes, he's unbelievable. We can't be without Hologram on Dynamite. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of him though. Darby and Brody King, good match. Collision though. One of those matches that you said, let's omit, let's keep. I think this one.
It's Tacoma though. They wanted Darby on the show. It was his home market, and they wanted him on the show. And so, I didn't. This I didn't mind. At least it had something of a story. They did a whole segment on TV with them on that Go Home show. The weird one where the babyface hit the heel in the face with a rock. That one. So it had more of a story than Hologram and the Beast Mortos did. But yeah, you could have cut it from the show, but I get why it was there. You want to get Darby on the show and get him a win because he lost to Moxley. And if he is going to possibly be challenging soon for the championship, then you got to reset and you got to build him back up.
Yeah, this was good. I mean, I can't shit on a Darby Allin match. I can't shit on a Brody King match. I think both guys are very good. And this was good. Darby obviously factored into the main event as you saw the lasting image of him and Orange Cassidy while Bryan was being stretchered out. So he did play a pivotal role in the show, but he did beat Brody King, and they did end up shaking hands and earning each other's respect, which was a great sight there. AEW Tag Team Championships, Young Bucks and the team of Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy, Private Party. Not much of a story coming into this, but I want to start at the top here. Jason, you and I are very familiar with Private Party. They finally addressed Private Party being from Queens, and we saw the man himself. I wonder who shot this. Hodge, if you're listening, man, I wonder if you shot this out there, man. Amazing Red, man, finally made a cameo appearance on AEW television, giving a pep talk to both Quinn and Cassidy. But my question to you is, I know a lot of people were like, man, this match ended up being pretty decent by the end of it. Probably the best Private Party match maybe ever in AEW. But was it too little too late to try and tell the story of them kind of shedding the old party gimmick and shots and, VIP clubs and then them turning into a little bit more of a serious act? Is that something that they should have played out a little bit longer instead of just trying to tell it in 2 weeks and then having them lose and then align themselves with Stokely? I mean, I felt that was very rushed for what they were trying to do on Saturday.
Yeah, no, I mean, ideally it would have played out over a longer period of time. Ideally, you would have had Red in a segment on Dynamite with them.
Yeah.
And what you saw in that video, you would have done that in the ring. It would have been very similar to the segment with Ace Steel and CM Punk. You remember that one?
Yes.
Before his championship match. And you should have done a segment like that with Red in the ring where He comes out, and they can put him over on the mic in case anybody doesn't know who he is. And then Red just smacks the shit out of them. And he's trying to knock some sense into them and say, this is not what I taught you. You guys are going around like this is a joke and you're having a good time. And, a lot of what we saw there in that segment, but really, play it up instead of just throwing the video out there on the pay-per-view, So yes, on the other hand, if they weren't going to win, what a buzzkill that would have been to build it up and then just have them go out there and lose. So I kind of feel like they knew they weren't going to win. And maybe that's why they didn't put in maximum effort to try to get them over, because they just knew this wasn't like a big crowning moment for them. They're just another team to go in there and lose to the Bucks. Now they're teasing something with Stokely. They may end up going heel. I don't know what they're going to do with them. It does feel like too little too late. I was holding out hope, that maybe they would win here in this match. I thought there was at least a chance of it happening. It didn't. And I don't see them getting some redemption arc where they come back and beat the Bucks for the belts. I think they had their shot, and that was it. That's why I was thinking, outrunners. It's like on to the next. Okay, they didn't do it with Private Party, so it's on to the next team, whoever that's going to be, and so they could put them with Stokely. And you know what I can't wait for? If they end up with Stokely Hathaway, I can't wait in 2 months when they show up on Dynamite and they're back to being a babyface and they're not with Stokely anymore. And we don't have an explanation why.
I'm pretty sure we are anticipating that happening, for sure.
Can't wait. I can't wait.
This was a very good match towards the end. I mean, it was just there for the first, I would say, 60% of it, 70% of it. And then they actually got the crowd on their feet, and they, Quinn and Cassidy started doing what they usually do best, which is the high-flying stuff. And the Young Bucks, no matter what you think of the Young Bucks, they're still a very, very good tag team. They've had some bangers this year. Fletcher and Ospreay at Grand Slam is just a great example of what they could still do in the ring with the proper opponent. But that's what it really boils down to. Right now, they're not an entertaining duo. There's no story in the division. I couldn't tell you more than 4 teams right now in AEW's tag team division, and only one of them, which is the Bucks, mean anything. Grizzled Young Veterans showed up. They disappeared. FTR are non-existent. We have Private Party.
Where did they go? Where did GYV go?
I have no idea.
They showed up at Wembley. It was like this big deal. And they must be on Collision, I would imagine. But they kind of dropped off the face of the earth. Outrunners
are there. Who else is there? Top Flight?
Top Flight. House of Black. I don't know what's going on with House of Black.
Conglomeration. That's not even a team, though.
That's not even a real team, though. You have that's a really good question. Who else is that? Well, I guess they technically still have the Lucha Brothers under contract. They could use them if they wanted.
They could.
I don't know. Yeah, it's not what it used to be. It's not what it used to be.
Yeah, it's something that needs to be
the Kingdom.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm just saying. You wanted to know.
Yeah. Acclaimed. Yes, they fell off the face of the fucking earth too. Maximum Male Models is another one. I mean, their division's not good. It's not where it needs to be, but this was a good match. Quinn and Cassidy lose. They are obviously aligning themselves. It looks like the story's going with Stokely because he was in the front row. He was shaking his head because they turned him down, and that's where it seems to be going. But they did lose, and I wonder if they are going to continue their redemption story and build them up for another opportunity. I don't know. Mark Briscoe. Ring of Honor Championship against the Learning Tree, Chris Jericho. Now, this is a match where we could have said, you know what, I think this is best on Collision. Or Ring of Honor.
11 o'clock at night. I'm looking at the clock. It is 11 o'clock at night, and Jericho is first having his match.
Yep.
That should never, ever happen.
Yeah.
I like Mark Briscoe. I do not need to see Chris Jericho first going out there on a pay-per-view at 11 p.m. for a match. We don't need that.
No, and we're not going to go over this. Mark Briscoe wins. This could have been a Ring of Honor final battle match if they wanted to build it. I don't care. I mean, the best thing right now for the Learning Tree is to get Big Bill away from these guys and get him on his own. But Jericho right now is just offensive television in every sense of the word. Not anything that anybody cares to see. But the main event. American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, he's out there with Marina Shafir. This, You know what, Jason? I was actually very concerned about them giving Moxley a 4th title run. I'm like, man, I'm not really into Moxley in the main event. But you can't really sit there and say that about a Bryan Danielson match. This match was fucking great. And this was every bit of what we expect from Bryan Danielson in the main event. It was the ending that really got people to say, oh, man, this was kind of cringy. This was unexpected. This was not good. This was a very 50-50 split, depending on who you talk to about the main event. But as far as the match itself, it was very good. And the crowd was into it. It was lively. They played fucking Europe throughout the entire intro of the...
Tony Khan was going to get his money's worth on that.
I mean, it's the last time you're probably going to be hearing that for a while, so God knows. I mean, the Bucks mentioned on pay-per-view last time that they were in a situation with Bryan that's $250,000 per play. So... Yeah. Or just for a single use for an evening.
Well, they must have worked out some kind of a deal.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they played it on Dynamite a few times. There's no way they're paying $250,000 a pop. So I'm sure they worked out some kind of an arrangement there. But, yeah, it was like an Anarchy in the Arena match for the first 5 minutes where they just kept playing the music until the music was done, and then it finally stopped.
I heard some people on social media or saw some people complaining about it on social media. Why don't you stop the music? I'm like, A, it's a great song. B, you know, the crowd's singing along to it while these guys are beating the shit out of each other. That's a nice visual. I like
4 minutes. Like, who gives a shit? Like, it's 4 minutes and the music is going to be over. What are you so...
Like you never played a song on repeat after you listened to it once, twice, 3 times in a row? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to loop it for the full 25 minutes. Like, just calm down. It's fine.
So, the situation here is Bryan lost the championship. He passed out. Moxley choked him out with the Bulldog. And we got the big ending that we got. The plastic bag reared its ugly head again. Wheeler Yuta turned after teaming with Bryan on Title Tuesday, only to turn on him on Saturday night. Moxley asked him to choke him out. So Yuta is now aligned with the Blackpool Combat Club. Let's talk about that situation first. Yeah, reluctantly, yes.
Reluctantly, because there was fan video of him as he was leaving through the crowd, and he kind of pushed Claudio away, and he was looking back at the ring, and he was very upset. So that's a story that will, I'm sure, play itself out tomorrow night.
So I'm guessing that they're only doing that because they are the Trios champions right now, and they need to figure out who to drop those championships to or get those championships on somebody else before they play that out. Is that the way they're looking at that?
I would imagine. I mean, if you care about the Trios titles, then yeah, I would think that they're. But who do they lose them to? I'm not sure who they drop them to. I was trying to think of like who would be the obvious choice, and I don't know that anybody's really jumping out at me.
I'd burn them.
Well, yeah, of course we'd burn them, but like they're not going to do that.
No.
So taking that into consideration, who gets them next?
No idea. I couldn't even tell you.
No idea. I mean, that's the thing of it, conglomeration, maybe, because we saw Orange Cassidy there at the end of the show. So maybe the conglomeration, and what does it really matter? You know, when it comes to those titles, does it really matter? Those titles were created for one reason and one reason only. They were created for the elite.
Yeah.
That's it.
They were.
They were created for the elite.
And now they're just holding back the rebuilding phase or the growth of the tag team division, which to me is what you should really be focusing on. But what the fuck do I know? I'm not booking.
But can we talk about the absolute best moment that came out of this closing angle?
Excalibur crying?
No, that was the worst. I said the best.
What was the best?
Best moment. The match is over, and they're attacking Bryan Danielson, and the baby faces come out, and they get fought off. And then Jeff Jarrett runs into the ring, and Tony Schiavone on commentary says, you know, it's Jeff Jarrett is here. And then now Jim Ross was brought in to do commentary for the last 2 matches, and God bless JR. He just doesn't give a shit. Jeff Jarrett is running into the ring, and after Tony Schiavone is so excited and says what he says, Jim Ross goes, "Not Jeff Jarrett," like in the most condescending, possible, sarcastic way imaginable. Whether he intended it that way or not, I was dying. Like, not Jeff Jarrett. I could just picture his eyes rolling back into his head as he said it.
Even he's fucking fed up with Jeff Jarrett being on television.
Even he's done with this. And then we got the second best moment was when the other baby faces finally ran out after they stomped on Danielson's neck And Jim Ross is what did he say? He was like, where the hell were you before, or something like that? Because I'm thinking the same thing. Like, what the hell are you coming out here now for?
And JR, he just transformed into social media fucking degenerate live on air.
he doesn't. No, well, I mean, look, we've had him in the past where he'll openly shit on the product on the show. You know, like if he thinks like there's like a big dive, or people do too many dives, like he'll make a comment about it. You know, like he doesn't care. He doesn't care.
Didn't they just re-sign him to an extra year or 2 years?
Tony Khan did, yeah.
Oh boy,
yeah, Tony Khan did. It's like what he's been doing with Jake Roberts. You know, Jake keeps re-signing Jake. What has he done with Jake in the last few? How many times has he utilized Jake Roberts in the last few years? But look, it just goes to his treatment of legends, especially as compared to how they used to be treated sometimes by WWE and Vince McMahon. He does go out of his way to treat the legends like legends. And I think that he likes having Jake Roberts, on the roster. And so he keeps re-signing Jake Roberts. And I think he looks at Jim Ross. Does he need Jim Ross? No, he's got commentators. He doesn't need Jim Ross, but he respects Jim Ross. And he wants to honor him and wants him to be a part of the company. And then you look at how he books Sting. That's one thing you can't say about Tony Khan, is that he disrespects the legends and the veterans that he brings in. He doesn't. He does respect them, even though he may not always have anything for them to do, but he usually does right by them.
Absolutely. And that's a great thing to see, because like you said, Vince never brought in managers or cared about the legends or put them as a focus on television. So Tony has done a very good job at that.
Yeah, and I'm not saying they need to be the focus on television. I'm saying that because there were times where they would bring in legends and they would just use them as a joke, and they would have people, in the name of heat, they would have a heel on TV just openly shitting on them every single time they would bring somebody in. It was just openly shitting on these guys, and Tony Khan doesn't do that.
Yeah, we could go back to Arn and Tully on being on AEW television. Yeah. Sting obviously is the biggest one. Jake. I think it's great. I'd love to see more of that. Ricky Steamboat's another one, yes. But this match ended with Bryan passing out, referee stoppage. Marina Shafir was actually kicked from ringside during the match. She pulled up the mats on the outside. She got involved way too many times. Bryce Remsburg, the referee, saw it finally, kicked her out. So Moxley ended up winning. She came back out. Claudio Pac came down to the ring. They placed the AEW Championship title in a black bag, Jason. This is one of the biggest takeaways from the main event that I talked about with Jesse. What is the significance of placing the title in the black bag? It's almost as if they were robbing Gotham Bank and they ran off with it like the fucking Joker in Gotham City. What was the significance of them putting the World Championship in a black bag and zipping it up? What do you mean? What did you take away from that?
Well, I mean, it felt like they were stealing it to almost give it to somebody else.
Who?
That was kind of what I felt like. Like there's something bigger going on here, which is what Moxley has teased. There is something bigger at play here. And what or who that is, we don't know yet. We can speculate, but we don't know. But they're taking the title for someone else. That's kind of how it came off to me.
Moxley did say this is bigger than the World Championship as well.
Yeah. So okay, because why else would they make off with it in the way that they did, unless they're doing that to take it away and then they're going to unveil some new title? But that's what it felt like to me. They were effectively stealing the title, almost like, okay, we're gonna steal it, we're gonna take it, and we're gonna bring it to him. We're gonna bring it to them, whoever they are.
So Moxley grabbed the plastic bag. Wheeler Yuta and Darby Allin ran down to stop Moxley. And then Wheeler Yuta blindsided Darby, charged at him with a knee. Marina and Pac tied Darby in the corner with duct tape. Moxley then handed Wheeler the plastic bag and wanted him to suffocate Bryan. Wheeler used the bag on Bryan Danielson, and Darby pleaded for Wheeler to stop. This was all a great visual. Private Party and Jeff Jarrett then ran down to tell Bryan they were
Jeff Jarrett.
They were outnumbered. So Private Party was a loser on 2 occasions tonight. Claudio stomped on a steel chair that was wrapped around Bryan's neck. They really sold that spot. And it looked safe enough that it wasn't anywhere near neck. It was more on his upper back. So it was a really, really nice spot there. Claudio stomped on a steel chair. The rest of the locker room cleared out, and Moxley and his Blackpool Combat Club retreated into the crowd. The medical team came out, stretchered Danielson out of the ring, and Tony Schiavone says a horrific scene, which is the worst I've seen in my entire life. He heals at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that is, Tony. Everything's great too. Every Wednesday. We saw the last visual, Jason, was Darby and Orange Cassidy. We talked about Darby. We discussed him possibly being a contender for the World Championship. And Hook was out there as well. So it looks like these three are going to be embroiled in whatever's going on with the Blackpool Combat Club. Orange Cassidy was put over big by Jerry Lynn earlier in the broadcast in a promo backstage segment with Renee Paquette. The emotion that they went for was presented to me in a very good way. I enjoyed it. I got what they were going for. This was Bryan, all about Bryan, selling the emotion on Bryan going away. They really packaged that into a nice package and sold it to Tacoma, and we're going into Dynamite on Wednesday. Very high with story, so I'm very interested to see where they go with this. But the thing is, a lot of people didn't like it as many people did like it. What do you say to those people that didn't like it, and why didn't they like it, in your honest opinion?
Well, I mean, the finish, it did come off a little flat because I don't think people were expecting that to be the finish. So when they rang the bell, you could even see it from people in the crowd. They were stunned, and not in a good way. They were booing, they were upset, almost like that's it. Like that's how the match ends.
Yeah.
So I think that was part of it. And then I also think that there may have been people upset that we didn't get a payoff. They were expecting a big appearance.
Shane?
They were expecting Shane. They were expecting some answer. All of this ambiguity and all of these cryptic comments that Jon Moxley has been making, they figured, and so did I, that we were going to get an answer to that at the end of the show, and then we didn't. They just won. They beat up Bryan Danielson, and they left, and that was the end of it. So I think it was a combination of those things. People just came away like, that's it. Like, that's underwhelming. That's the best they could come up with. That sucks. And they kind of react in the moment. It was a flat finish, but as far as the post-match angle, I liked it. It was a serious angle. It evoked emotion. It set this crew up, for better or worse, going forward as the top heel group in the company. And it leaves us with more questions than answers, with the hope that people will tune in on Wednesday to see what those answers are. We're gonna learn a lot, when these Dynamite numbers, I think, come in on Thursday, whether or not they were able to bring in people, and if it worked, if they were able to bring people in who were curious to see what the follow-up to this angle would be, or if they were expecting Shane and we didn't get him and they think he'll be there on Wednesday, which I do think he's coming in, and I don't think it's going to be on Wednesday. I think it's something they're going to continue to hold off on, possibly until the end of the year,
World's End,
which would be appropriate because they saved the devil reveal for World's End last year. So maybe this year Shane is the devil for 2024. So I'm not expecting him on the show tomorrow or really anytime soon, since we didn't get him on Saturday. But I think that's had a lot to do with why people were upset. They're just, and honestly, you also will have people who just don't like Moxley. They don't want to see him as champion for a fourth time. They're like, oh, God, now the belt's back on him again. And that you can't discount that, too, that was part of it. So I think it was a combination of different things. I saw the same thing in the feedback that I got. It was very polarizing. Some people were shocked that I said I liked the ending. And then I explained why, and they kind of got it. I think people were just very reactionary. If they didn't like it, that's fine. I'm not saying that you have to like it. I'm just saying this is why I liked it. And this is why I think it was a good idea for them to do it the way that they did. And then we'll see if it pays off for them on Dynamite when the numbers come in, because that's going to be the best way to kind of gauge whether or not people wanted to tune in for this cliffhanger to see what the next chapter of this story is going to be.
Did they need to lean into a reveal? Not saying a reveal needed to happen on Wednesday, but at least lean into something as far as maybe me and Jesse talked about on Saturday. maybe them leaving the building and them getting into a limousine or a vehicle of some sort with a tinted window, and they all get in, but we don't know who's driving. Something along those lines. Maybe kind of lean into it, tease it a little bit more than when we got on Saturday, because we were left with really nothing. I mean, we're still asking the questions. Well, what about these cryptic quotes from Jon Moxley? We don't still have it. We're not any closer to an answer.
Yeah, but they didn't want the focus on that. They wanted the focus on the guy with the broken neck in the ring. And they rolled out the stretcher, and they were very somber. The announcers in their tone were very somber. The story, they did not want the story going off the air, the primary story, to be who's in the car, who's in the limo. It was about, holy shit, they just killed Bryan Danielson, and this may be the last time we ever see him. And then you get that party. I love that parting shot at the very end when you just see Darby, Daniel Garcia, Orange Cassidy, and Hook. All four of them are in the same camera shot. Now, what do they all have in common? They're all AEW originals.
Well, that was my next question. Where does this go? Because I've seen some narratives floating around on Twitter the last 24 hours saying that, and Jon Moxley said it's not about the World Championship. It's not about Bryan Danielson. This is bigger than all that, says Jon Moxley. Those were his words. What does this storyline provide AEW as far as the payoff is concerned? Because like you said, we saw Darby, Orange Cassidy, Hook, and Danny Garcia. Private Party was also out there as well. And all of these competitors, all these wrestlers, they're undergoing changes on AEW television. Darby is overcoming being bullied. He was telling the story about Brody King and him being bullied and him getting into a knife fight with people on a school bus. Danny Garcia just came back and said this is not going to be the same Danny Garcia that we seen before he signed the new contract. Orange Cassidy was put over by Jerry Lynn. Private Party's going through some reconstruction of themselves and a new image of themselves. Hook, he's looking for who attacked his father. He's looking to break out on his own now. He doesn't have his pops there anymore. Are we seeing Jon Moxley take all of these, I guess, just theoretically, Jon Moxley's looking to make these stars bigger than they are because it's bigger than, these guys are bigger than AEW. These are the people that are going to build AEW up from within. Is that the story that he's trying to tell? But what's the end goal for something like that?
Well, I think the end goal is you have somebody like a Darby, winning the championship and taking the title away from Jon Moxley. It kind of has tones in a way of the NWO angle, where you had this invading faction that's sort of taking over. They've taken the world championship, the centerpiece of the promotion. Who can stop them? Who can save them? I mean, look, the preview for Dynamite tomorrow night. They have a graphic with Jon Moxley. It says nobody is safe. So that's how they're portraying this whole thing. And who's going to be the savior? Who's going to be, is Sting going to save WCW? Who's going to be the savior of AEW here? And if they're using this as a way to get these younger, more homegrown talents over, try to make them stars, I don't think that's a bad idea. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if it's going to elevate someone like Daniel Garcia to that level, where people see him at that level, or Hook, or if Hook will even be involved. But if the idea is to try to use this angle as a way to elevate those guys, I can't fault Tony Khan for that. He, instead of just relying on WWE guys or older guys, if they want to try to make something of some of the younger homegrown guys, good. I don't know if it's going to work. I like that idea though. And now you have if that's correct, you have a focused goal here where they have to try to fight for AEW to get that belt back and wrestle this power away from the Blackpool Combat Club, who's going around kicking everybody's ass, right? They took a hammer to, was it Isaiah Cassidy's hand a few weeks ago? They just broke Bryan Danielson's neck. They're running roughshod over everybody in this company. Who can stop them? I'd much rather see Tony Khan trying to make Darby and Garcia and Orange Cassidy, a believable sort of opposition to them, instead of just going to Adam Copeland or Bobby Lashley or, people like that. They don't need to be in that spot. They need to create new stars. What's so bad about that?
That's a great direction. It's just, it's a great direction, but are people going to care enough to tune into the show? That's the problem. The story needs to be told. The story needs to be a great story for people to tune in on a weekly basis. Again, I hope they blow away whatever their high rating was for the entire year tomorrow night.
But see, this is where one thing that WWE does well, And I'm not saying AEW has to copy everything that WWE does the exact way they do it. But one of the things that really put the Bloodline angle over the top over the last few years, especially when Sammy joined, were those backstage segments and the interactions between them. They were telling story in every single one of those segments, and they were doing character building and character development. We need to see that on AEW television. If this is what they're doing, then we need to have segments, in the back or elsewhere with Darby and with Orange Cassidy, and it can't just be in-ring promos and matches. You gotta add more to it to tell that story and build these characters. Build them enough that people are going to give a shit about seeing them fight for AEW, or wanna fight to become the world champion, or they got to band together. But you've got to have those character building segments. It can't just be the matches, and it can't just be some quick little interaction. Renee's in the back and Orange Cassidy is standing there and has a little 30-second promo or something with Hook. Like, who gives a shit?
No, you're talking about seeing interaction between Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin, or Darby Allin and Hook, or Private Party. What
in the absence of a Renee or somebody, the camera is there, and there's this interaction between them. Yes, those are the types of segments that I think will help. That will help develop these characters and make people hopefully care about them. If the writing supports it, it all boils down to what are they doing, what are they saying in these segments. But I think if you've got the creative and the writing to support it, and you start doing segments like that's a step in the right direction to try to really build these guys up in a way that makes people care about them. Because nobody's going to care if they're just going out there and having matches, and you're not telling that aspect of things.
I agree 100%. Tomorrow's going to be a very interesting night. Tony has booked Jay White, Christian Cage, Shelton Benjamin, Leo Rush. We will hear from Jon Moxley. We will hear from Adam Cole. I'm assuming we'll see MJF as well. He just booked FTR versus Big Bill and Brian Keith, but it is supporting hurricane relief efforts, so that's a great deal right there. And Mercedes is wrestling Queen Aminata, I believe, tomorrow night.
Yes, in a non-title match, and they added a six-man tag, so it'll be the Elite. So Okada and the Bucks against Kyle O'Reilly, Orange Cassidy, and Rocky Romero.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So that's been well. Look, I mean,
less is more, man. Less is more, Tony.
Well,
what
you
are we
said
doing?
that Kyle O'Reilly and Okada had a segment right backstage so there you go. Now they're going to be in the same match.
I cursed it. What am I going to do?
There you go.
Anyway, guys, thank you for all of your support on TNT number 69. We once again apologize for the little technical hiccup earlier. It was beyond our control, but it seemed to have normalized, and we finished strong here on Tuesday night. So thank you guys very much. 2,300 people. And we have super chats to get into, and we are 67 more likes away from 1,000. So if you guys are in the chat,
oh my goodness! I mean, you guys can get to 1,000. Come on now.
Absolutely, let's get to 1,000, guys. If you're in the chat, haven't hit the thumbs up yet, please do so. It helps out the video later on tremendously. Follow us on social, YouTube. Everything you need is linked down below. And Jason and I will be live on our individual channels covering what should be a very eventful Dynamite tomorrow. Let's start at the top here. Who do we have? OTS Tribal Queen. Thank you for recommitment to the channel. Appreciate you very much. We got a lot of super chats and jokes from Sidro.
Oh, boy.
Sidro.
I don't know if Sidro's here. I think Sidro said he might have to bow out. He had some money that I think he won from the casino that he was going to go use.
Oh, boy.
I think he said he won $300.
There you go. He gave us some of that $300. Then Sidro has a 5, a 5, a 5, a 5, and a 2. Message to women. If your guy doesn't appreciate fresh fruit puns, let that mango. Also, our mountains aren't just funny. They're hill areas. I didn't like that one.
Yeah, that was bad. That was bad.
I pulled a muscle digging for gold, just a minor injury. Also, what do you call someone who doesn't like carbs? Lactose intolerant.
Somehow get worse. Just when I think they can't get any worse, they get even worse.
And God said to John, come forth and you shall receive eternal life. But John came fifth and won a toaster. Hope you like these. I love you, Solo and JD. By request.
That one redeemed it a little.
Okay.
That one was clever.
By request, Ali in the chat, JD, say this in Jacob Fatu voice. I love you, Solo and JD. I'm not gonna scream. I'm not gonna scream like Jacob Fatu does. You are all my tribal chief. Thank you, Sidro.
Thank you, man.
He's got another one. It's not over yet. Why is it called Dynamite? Because it's always a blow up. Okay, you should have ended with the last one.
Yeah, that's what happens when you overstay your welcome. You got to go out on a high note.
David Thiering, thank you for the 100 bomb earlier in the chat, man. We really appreciate you. Michelle Moran with a 5. If Mox's storyline doesn't get dropped entirely in 2 weeks, I feel TK will ruin it by doing something stupid like making himself the higher power. I don't think so.
No, he's why would you put that out? Come on. We don't need it.
No, we don't need Tony Khan on TV at all. Paul,
yelling?
No.
Screaming?
No.
You don't want to see it?
No. Paul David 50. Thank you, brother. Hey guys, watching game 2 of the ALCS where the Yankees lead 3-0. What was the final score? Did they win?
I don't know, but they won. I know they won.
Okay. We're up 2-0. Danny M with an 8 months. 69, dude. Yeah. 69. A. Jackson with a 9.99. I like the ending of WrestleDream. Every star that came out to help Danielson all got pep talks about becoming better. I think they all hold gold at World's End. Darby is the main character of all this. I don't know if they all hold gold, but we could see them all with championship at the same time, yeah. I think that would be a little bit too soon to play it all out.
Yeah, I don't really see this storyline paying off or getting, if there's a big reveal to be had. It might not happen until World's End. So you're not going to take the title off Moxley, I wouldn't think, before then.
Boots,
or even then on that show.
It's too soon. Sidro with a 5. Boots, thank you for the 100. Appreciate you as always. Sidro with a 5. Bill and Ted movie reference. Bill and Ted from future asking past selves, if you really us, what number we thinking of? 69, dude. Whoa. Awesome movie.
God, I haven't seen that in ages.
Me too. I guess that's what the 69 dude from Danny M was. There you go. Damon Gill, new membership. Thank you, Damon. Brian Rodersheimer with a 5 and a 5. He says, Solid Monster, don't be too heartbroken when my Cubs sign the polar bear during the offseason. Keep up the great work, guys.
Well, we got Grimace, so we're good. As long as we have Grimace, we'll be okay.
Is Alonso a free agent at the end of the year?
He is.
He's coming back, right? You think?
I would hope so. I would think so, yeah.
Christian.
Better.
Yeah, well, that's a big loss. You don't want to, I mean, that's like me losing Freeman. Can't be replaced.
No.
Christian with a 26 months. Been a while since I've been able to catch you live, but stuck at home sick tonight. Hope you both the best. And what are you guys drinking? Thank you, Christian.
Thank you, man. Feel better.
Mr. Team Bringer with a $4.99. Is there a way to bring back Wardlow to his old self? How would you book him to become the best of his ability?
Not in AEW.
Yes, release him and send him to WWE. Mm-hmm. Edward Otis with a $4.99. If you had to change a current main roster talent back to how they were in NXT, who would it be? I would pick Shayna. It's a good one. Shayna was a beast in NXT.
Yeah, no, Shayna was. So was Asuka.
Yep. I would say Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yeah, that's a good one. I was gonna say, man. There's a lot of different options for that. You got Balor as an option as well. Keith Lee.
Yeah.
I know it's been injury issues with him, but if he was healthy, I mean, he was a beast in NXT.
TK Banks is carrying Cross. I actually very much like what Cross is doing right now. I just wish that it was a little bit more important. I think we may be seeing them feud with the Wyatt Six potentially.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. But Like if you put yourself in kayfabe mode for a second, why does he care about the Miz? Like,
I don't know.
Why? I guess he's a shit stirrer, though. I guess maybe that's his whole thing. You know, he causes,
he's like the bad devil against the good devil on the shoulder gimmick.
like Woody Woodpecker.
Yeah.
You know, he's an instigator. I guess that's his thing.
Also, Otis, just to give you another one who is not really active in ring anymore, but man, I think they dropped the ball on Bobby Roode. I think him as a heel now, as he was in NXT, would be phenomenal. That's just me.
If he was in there and healthy under Triple H,
Yeah.
I think he would do very well.
Yeah.
But, you know, unfortunately, he had the neck issue, and yeah, it's kind of like Jason Jordan. Also, you know, he had the neck problem, and it just derailed his entire career.
Basic with the 19 months. If Sammy joins the OG Bloodline, can we expect Kevin Owens to run up on Sammy in the parking lot? I
For
don't know.
old time's sake.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get that, but I do think that we will at some point see Kevin against Sammy again.
I forgot to mention this earlier. I raised it as a potential on my stream last night. Do you think that they may move Kevin Owens over to Raw and get rid of him off SmackDown if they keep finding him to get into trouble here? Is that a potential? Maybe for Drew McIntyre?
It could be a potential. I didn't really give any thought to that. I was thinking more McIntyre to SmackDown and maybe AJ to Raw.
Well, AJ says he's cooked on social media today. As the kids say, I'm cooked, he says.
Yeah, which doesn't sound good.
No.
But he is going to be back eventually. And there was talk about them doing this farewell tour angle with him. I think he's done all he can do on SmackDown. So I just think, as two former world champions, it's kind. I mean, Drew's a bigger name at the moment than AJ is because they've done more with him, but it's almost a 1-for-1 trade. And you could send Drew to SmackDown, send AJ when he's healthy to Raw, and I'd love to see him working with people like Gunther.
I would love to see that too.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with AJ, but
he did say on social media that his injury is called a Liz Frank injury.
Yeah.
Which, you know, if there have been some athletes that have had that injury and talked about it. It's like a midfoot injury, and it's a serious injury, and it could require surgery. I don't know if it will in his case, but it may be a while before we see him again.
There's been so many conflicting reports. He's hurt. He's not hurt. He's hurt. He's not hurt. I don't know.
I think he's hurt. I
Okay.
think he's hurt.
All right.
Yeah, and it may be a while before we see him again.
Apex with a 199. Mets versus Yankees looking likely. New York wins, baby. Yeah, it's listen. It is a high probability that we get that because when the playoffs happen, man, postseason, it's anybody's game. It's a new season. The Mets could easily pull off the upset against the Dodgers, which I mean, I hate the fucking Dodgers. So if that's the case, good for them.
Yeah, it's just, you know, you don't want to count out the Dodgers, though. I mean, they're a great team. They got what's his name, Yamamoto.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just I don't have the confidence in our bullpen that I wish I could have. My heart sinks every single time. Like, it's time to go to the pen. I'm like, oh God. And I want to like hide under a rock because you just don't know what you're gonna get. You know, like with our closer, there's like two versions, and you just never know what you're gonna get, and things could go sideways very quickly. So I don't know what to expect, but they are. There's just something special about that team this season. So I'd love to see it, and I would love for this Subway Series to go very differently than the one that we had in 2000.
Who started for the Dodgers yesterday? I tuned into the game a little late when the Mets were already up 6-0. Did they start a bullpen mixture of bullpen guys yesterday?
Oh, I think they did. Who was it? I forgot the name, but I think they may have. Yeah, I'm not sure why they. Yeah, even the guy that we started in game one, I'm not sure. He was hurt, and he pitched. God, how many games did he even play this year? And you start him at the beginning of the series? Like, there was a lot of talk about why wouldn't you, like our starter last night, why wouldn't you start him in game?
Yeah.
So that was something that here they were questioning the manager about. But look, I can't say too many bad things about our manager. He's done a hell of a job this season.
I'll tell you what, Shea Stadium's going to be rocking and rolling tomorrow.
Well, it won't be, but Citi Field will.
I know.
Shea Stadium hasn't been rocking in many years, JD.
I know. I said it on purpose just to get a reaction out of you.
Yeah.
City Field is good. Look, City Field is a beautiful field. I've been there a few times. Beer Fest there once. It's a great place.
Shake Shack. Good food.
Yeah. Basic. Thank you with the $9.99. This is the same Rock that wanted to be at Roman for the Universal title and then vacate it. Yes, I believe that The Rock would show up, steal the show, and not have a follow-up. Rock is going to be at WrestleMania.
He'll be at WrestleMania.
David with the 20. Thank you, David. Thiering, JD Solo. Would I be wrong in saying that Dave Meltzer is the Uncle Buck movie reference of wrestling journalists these days? Please be honest. I get those vibes whenever I see things like The Rock WrestleMania story, for example.
I love Uncle Buck, and I don't get the reference. Like, the Uncle Buck of wrestling journalism. Uncle Buck was he was a badass. So I'm not sure in what way. What are we talking about here?
Is Dave Meltzer a badass? I don't know.
Well, he's got the guns.
He's got the guns, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think bigger than Adam Cole is, for God's sake. So I mean, if he came out there,
God.
don't get me started on that and all the Adam Cole discourse this week.
Listen, if Britt likes it, Britt likes it. Who the fuck are you to complain? You know, whatever. Samurai with a new membership. Thank you, Samurai. Packing heat with a 20. Bloodline should cost Jay Monday after the match. They attack him, which brings out Sammy to help also get destroyed with Jimmy making the save. This leads to Bloodline attacking Roman and Jimmy on SmackDown, and Jay and Sammy make the save.
Well, that's the thing. If the Bloodline gets involved, with all this talk about family, and maybe they would involve themselves, even though it still would be a stretch because they haven't had any interaction with Jay. But if you involve them and they cost him the Intercontinental title, then he's got a reason. Even if he doesn't want to team with his brother and his cousin, he's got a reason now where it's like, okay, I'll do it. We're not cool, but I'll do it because I got to get revenge on these guys. So, but you got to make it make sense that they would get involved.
Yeah, whatever the case is, hopefully they flesh it out to a point where when Jimmy and Jay come together, it is special and emotional because that's a big deal. You don't want to rush through that type of moment because that is the sub-story here to whatever is the bigger story with the Bloodline versus Bloodline at War Games. Alex H with a $15 super chat. Thank you, Alex. Brother JD and Solo, what would JD and Solo do if they found out that in addition to Raw, SmackDown, and NXT are moving to 3 hours, they will each be a two-night event on a weekly basis?
I think Solomonster and JD would have to find something different to do for a living. That's what I think.
3 hours of Raw and SmackDown, man. Please don't get me started.
Two-night event. A two-night event, you say, huh?
Yep. No, thank you. We're going to two-night events, though, with all the major Big Five pay-per-views. It's going to happen. Rumble's going to be 2 nights. SummerSlam is already 2 nights. Money in the Bank's going to be 2 nights.
Yep.
It's coming. Michelle with a 5. If McIntyre stays on Raw, who does he feud with next? And like KO's long-running feud with the Bloodline, can you see him feuding with Punk now and then? McIntyre, who he feuds with on Raw? I have no idea. I genuinely don't know.
Another reason why he should go to SmackDown.
Yep.
Because we've seen him and Sheamus. You know, we've seen him in Punk, obviously. We've seen him in Seth. As far as like top baby faces for him to work with, assuming he stays heel, top baby faces for him to work with, there aren't a lot of really obvious options on the Raw side for him.
Yeah, it's even a little murky for Punk. We don't know where Punk goes after Crown Jewel, what he does at Survivor Series, whether it's Rollins, Gunther. Maybe he does something else. I don't know. KO and Punk, like you said, Michelle, I don't see how that's going to happen unless they're on the same show. But right now, it's all up in the air. Hopefully, they know what they're doing coming out of Crown Jewel.
Even Sammy. Sammy's another one. We've seen him work with Drew. Right?
Yeah. Lucas with a 2. Watch the new Kevin Owens tweet. We will. I already got it bookmarked on Twitter. Cake with a 2. I think Ricky's problem is with Jericho. Ricky Starks, you mean? Hey, Ricky Starks is being iced. Tony knows where he's going. That's why he's not using him. Arabian Night with a $13.99. Does KO leave WWE in January?
No.
No, I think he stays. If they finish this with Cody and Rock coming in for WrestleMania, what does KO do at WrestleMania? He's worked 90% of the roster. Creatively, this title program seems like a last-minute way to keep him. I mean, these are valid concerns. I think we asked that earlier in the show. What does he do?
I don't know that it's a last-minute way to keep him. I mean, the alliance with him and Randy has been ongoing since April.
Yeah.
So they had to have some sense of where this was going to be headed. It's not like it came out of nowhere.
Ricky Cornflakes with a $9.99. He simply says, hologram? The question mark? Who's hologram? What are you talking about? Why are we mentioning hologram?
As you mentioned, sologram.
Sologram. Yes.
Yeah.
Cameron Battle with a $4.99. WrestleVote says Kevin Owens is close to re-signing with WWE. Well, then, there you go. Take that for what it's worth. WrestleVotes usually gets more shit right than wrong. Cake with a 2. The Bucks got announced for Wrestle Dynasty. Great. I don't care. Alex with a 5. Forgive me. I know who's Hiroshi Tanahashi says he's retiring at Wrestle Kingdom in 2026, right? Is that what he said?
Yes.
Okay. Alex with a 5. Forgive me if this question has been asked, but the yesterday's Raw making 2 separate references to Lesnar, is this an intentional move and a big deal? No. I don't think so. Jimmy Belenko with a 10. Did you listen to the interview Will Ospreay did about why he doesn't sell? Considering there are so many New Japan wrestlers in AEW, that's why there's so little selling, or is that just an excuse? Listen, man, I'm not going to tell Will Ospreay how to work. You know, is the spot that they did at WrestleDream with the dueling fucking Poison Ranas ridiculous and them no selling it? Yes, it is. I'm just old school that way. Some people like it. I don't. But that doesn't take away from how great of a pro wrestler he is. I'm not going to tell him how to work. It's great. He's amazing at what he does. That's the style there. I mean, Tony's not going to change that, and they are not going to change that. Mason with a $9.99. Hulk Hogan was supposed to be at my work to show off his new beer, but apparently he threw a beer at someone's head, so we all took the signs down.
What?
Is that legit?
Why did he throw a beer at someone's head?
His beer probably tastes like shit anyway, man.
Did he fall over? Did he fall over when he threw the beer? He's walking around. I mean, I see him these days. He's like walking around with that walking stick. He looks like fucking Gandalf from Lord of the Rings.
Oh, man. Apex with a $1.99. The Yankees win. Frank Sinatra appropriate. Yeah. I like Mark Tremonti's version of New York, New York. You guys got to go find it on, I think it may be on YouTube. William with a 5. Cole and MJF return Saturday. Last we saw Cole, he's the devil and a heel with Roddy, etc. Now he returns as a babyface. Why? Just because MJF is a heel now? Whatever. William, I think we actually discussed that pretty decently in the show earlier. So rewind, brother. Tony Khan Slong with a $9.99. This sounds like it's fucking Demeter Bullying times 2. Hello, Mr. JD. Very excited to let you know Dynamite will be live this Wednesday on TBS. It will be a great show. Don't miss Dynamite on TBS. Man, I love the UK. See you on Wednesday. Thank you, Tony Khan.
There you go.
Appreciate it.
Tony got his plug in.
Mr. Team Bring It with a $1.99. Still can't believe I paid $60 for Fight Forever. Yeah, me too. You know how many times I played it? I played it for more than 10 minutes, maybe.
Did you ever play the Stadium Stampede mode?
No. By that time, it was deleted off my PlayStation 5. Clone Force. I think the only people playing it are Aubrey Edwards and fucking John Silver. To be
I think so. I mean, there were people who would have, like, they would send me reports like, this is how many people are in the lobby. It's like 9 people.
Oh my god, man!
And this wasn't that long after the game came out. Not like recent.
No, and then they just came to a determination that they may need a new publisher for the video game. No shit.
Oh yeah.
Clone Force with a $4.99. Owens is closer to signing a new deal with WWE. I saw it 2 hours ago. Yes, I'm sure we will find out about that more on Friday when we do our reviews. We'll talk about that. BC24 $4.99.
Well, we're not.
Oh, that's right. Nah, fuck me, hog. There's not going to be any SmackDown review from my end, so If you want SmackDown, I'm sure Jason will talk about it on the Sound Off Sunday. I'm not covering SmackDown. I'm going away. Family obligations. BC24 $4.99. Why did the wrestler bring a ladder to the bar? Because drinks were on the house. Man, leave the jokes to Sidro, please. You guys are fucking ridiculous, man. Also, he says all big shows will be 2 days, so WrestleMania should be a 3-day. No. No, thank you. David,
these are some of the worst ideas that I have ever heard.
Yes, we appreciate you guys, but please, no more added content. We are already with a full plate. And David, this is where we'll end. David with a 50 bomb. Thank you, David Thiering. Follow up. When you look at it that way, Solo, wrong reference. Meltzer versus Uncle Buck. Maybe comparing Meltzer to Forrest Gump or Sergeant Schultz from Hogan Heroes better. Just feel like Meltzer is out of the box at times with his reporting.
I know nothing. That's an old reference. Right
Hogan's Heroes, man. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's going back, man. That's going back a ways.
Jeez, is that before our time?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
I think it is. Just a little bit.
Forrest Gump is a great movie, though. That is all, guys.
Forrest Gump came out in 94, right?
Yeah.
There were a lot of great movies that came out in 94. Shawshank Redemption came out.
That's a great movie, too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex H with a 5. Will there be another Jim Ross, Jerry Lawler commentary duo in WWE? I quite enjoy Michael Cole and Corey Graves. I think they're fucking great. So.
Yeah, no. Cole and Graves are good together, but to answer your question, no. No, there will never be another combination like that. Just like there will never be another combination like Monsoon and Heenan. They're just in a league of their own. They had a certain chemistry that I don't think will ever be met.
Yep. Greatest of all time, those two guys right there. Nobody's better. Thank you guys very much for a great stream. As always, we had upwards towards 2,400 people in here, over 1,000 likes. Thank you for the super chat. Love, tremendous support tonight. Tony Khan Slong with
you almost said a different word, didn't you?
I know.
Yeah.
My dad is very proud of AEW. Thank you, Tony. You're gonna get me in a lot of trouble here, brother.
They're gonna clip that.
Yeah.
You gotta be careful.
Cal Ellen with 32 months. I have a joke about construction, but I'm still working on it. LOL. Fuck out of here, man. Please sound us off, man. Get us out of here.
Well, kind of on a sour note, I was gonna mention that. Joe Koff passed away, and he was the former COO of Ring of Honor. He really was the conduit to Ring of Honor being sold to Sinclair Broadcast Group. And were it not for him, it's very likely that in the 2010s, multiple times probably, Ring of Honor would have died. He was a huge wrestling fan. He went to bat for them. I know it was a big deal for him when they ran Madison Square Garden. So he passed away after a long battle with cancer. News came out today. I was very sorry to hear that, but certainly a very important figure in the history of that promotion.
I'm sure we'll hear something on Dynamite tomorrow in regards to Mr. Koff. So thoughts and prayers to his family. And thank you guys for everything tonight, man. Unbelievable show. Number 69 in the books. We will see you next Tuesday for episode 70 right here on Tuesday Night Titans. I know we have a couple of shows, and then I think we are deciding on election night, guys, just to give you guys a heads up. We may be taking that week off because nobody's going to give a shit about anything going on but the election process. But we'll notify you as we get closer to that. And Friday, Jason and I will not be live covering SmackDown because we have House of Glory obligations, so we will be at the NYC Arena and live on Triller TV Plus if you guys want to join us there. But please continue to hit that thumbs up. Thank you for the super chat. Love, socials, YouTube, all linked down below. And we will see you next week for episode 70 of Tuesday Night Titans. We'll see you guys later.